this was an absolute embarrassment of a game in the first half. It was an emotional roller coaster. I really wanted this. I really wanted this for Jamal Shead because that is about as perfect a quarter of point guard play as I've seen in the Raptors uniform from someone under 6'3" in a really long time, which includes Fred VanVleet, which includes Dennis Schroeder, which includes Emmanuel Quickly. There's a lot of good point guards recently who've played for this team that are under 6'3". And I got to tell you, this had shades of Kyle Lowry. Just that bulldog will you to victory. And he almost did. God damn it. If you gave him one more shot, one more minute, it's almost like Jamal Shead came out in this game and said, we will not lose. He sat on the bench for the entire game. And in the fourth quarter, with the Raptors down 11, Jamal Shead comes in, plays the entire fourth quarter, and ends the game plus 10 and banks in a 3 at the end. I like Shead. You know what's amazing? Jamal Shead, among all the players that you see that I talk about on this team that I really like, Jacoby, Grady, Emmanuel Quickly, Scottie Barnes, Jonathan Mobo, Ulrich Shamshay. Have y'all noticed that Jamal Shead is the cover of our X account? He's the background because this dude just wins. And you got to appreciate that about him. Clutch loss for the tank. Big loss if you're rooting for a play-in, though. This was a very winnable game. Zach Lavine ruled out before the game. Allegedly, the Bulls are looking to preserve whatever trade value he has by not risking the injury. Josh Giddey, who was playing a pretty good game and was on triple-double watch, he tries to contest on a Grady Dick 3, ends up trying to stop himself, rolls his ankle. He leaves the game. So that's not good for your tank. And if at that point, I think the Raptors were up 8 or 9, the Raptors were down 8 or 9, and you're like, it's going to be leaning on to Lonzo Ball a lot. And Lonzo Ball did not have the most solid, secure first half. A lot of missed shots, a lot of, sloppy play. And then, of course, the Raptors get the blow, which is Jakob Poeltl groin injury. And so, hey, December 15th was yesterday. All the stuff that I've been talking about, which is that the Raptors will possibly look to trade Jakob Poeltl sometime between now and the trade deadline. Well, you don't know what the injury was. We'll take a look at it in our film breakdown. It could be bad. RJ Barrett had a pretty decent game. The 6 turnovers, though, that keeps happening. The late clock misses, the late game misses, that stuff keeps happening. And I don't think this loss is on him at all. I think if you're going to look for some culprits for this loss or some victories, if you're gonna say who are the heroes of the tank tonight, let's have a new segment for every game from here on out. Heroes of the tank. Hero number 1, clearly Jakob Poeltl. I mean, not only does he get injured, I don't think that he was really that great for most of the game. Nikola Vucevic had a pretty easy night. Hero number 2, clearly Kelly Olynyk. My God, Kelly Olynyk was awful tonight. Just looked really lost. I think Chris Boucher was a hero of the tank to some extent. I think he was pretty bad. Garrett Temple, gets some early minutes in the first half, does not look good. Can we say Davion Mitchell, or would that be construed as hate? Let's stay away from Davion Mitchell. Let's just say, though, that the Toronto Raptors had one really good point guard tonight, and he sat on the bench for the first 3 quarters, and I shudder to think what might have happened had he not. Maybe you would have blown them out because Jamal Shead looked really good tonight. I don't necessarily even think Davion played that badly. I just don't think that he played that well. And Kelly is the true hero of the tank. I think, if we're voting, he definitely gets the award. I wouldn't care if Kelly gets traded. At this point, you need to ask yourself what his value is, because the Toronto Raptors decided, based on how he played last year, that he was worth a 2-year extension north of 32 years old at $12+ million. And I'm just wondering why. What was the competing offer? Why do you have to sign him for $12 million when players of his caliber are getting paid 5 to 6? And why does the NBA's lone Canadian team have to overpay a guy to literally play in Canada? That would just be a great question to ask. And this is one of the biggest reasons why I'm never really for the Toronto Raptors under Masai Ujiri trying to sign free agents, even when those free agents are Canadian. If you look at the two of the most egregious overpays of the last 3-4 years, it's been Kem Birch, Canadian guy, and Kelly Olynyk. And Kelly Olynyk really, I'm not saying he looks washed, but his Raptor career is not off to a great start right now. Okay. He's a really smart player, but unless he has a rim protecting big, which he does not here, he looks pretty lost defensively. He had that clear blow by on Nikola Vucevic. Man, that was bad. Okay, let's take a look at what's going on here. Someone said taxes. Okay, cool. Okay, so from the Toronto Raptors, Jonathan Mobo gets the start in place of the injured Scottie Barnes. He starts and doesn't do a hell of a lot offensively. The numbers don't stick out, but I got to tell you, he was a really big part of their fourth quarter turnaround. And in a game you lose by 1, he earned his +8. I thought his defense was commendable. Grady Dick, who had a very listless first 3 quarters, really turned it on in the fourth. If I'm not mistaken, he had 13 or 14 points in the in the fourth quarter, and hit 3 threes. So he was, I think, 0 for 5 entering the fourth quarter, and then he hits like 3 straight, and then he misses the final one. I thought he was great. 27 points, and you get 59 combined between him and RJ. That was pretty cool. I thought Ochai played relatively well. He made all of his shots inside the arc, missed most of his shots outside the arc, split a pair at the line, and overall was okay. Where you lost this game, I mean, if you're going to look at the box score, you're going to be like, Chris Boucher, 11 points, 10 rebounds. But Chris Boucher defensively was bad, really bad. Kelly Olynyk, you're going to like 7 points. What do you want, Rob? I just thought defensively he was bad. He got cooked, and it was a lot of transition stuff. Davion Mitchell, 3 turnovers. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they were all live ball turnovers. 3 points, 4 assists. He follows up what was a pair of decent games with the worst game he's had over the last 3, like by far. This is more of a return to normal for him. -6 in 16 minutes. Obviously, Darko Rajakovic decided to try a different look, in the fourth. And I'm going to pull myself off because clearly I am lagging again. Here we go. Okay. Someone said, who are we playing next? I can almost guarantee you're winning the next game. I'll almost guarantee it. I don't know if y'all watched the games tonight. There's some crazy games that happened tonight. One of those games was Brooklyn and Cleveland, which for whatever reason Vegas thought was going to be pretty close. It was a 29-point blowout, and I think it was like a 35-point blowout in the first half. That was really bad. There was the cataclysmic near collapse of the Detroit Pistons versus the Miami Heat, where Detroit was up 10, 12, 13 points with a couple minutes to go in regulation. And then Miami just strings together a whole bunch of plays between Jimmy Butler and Terry Rozier and Tyler Hero. And it was just bam, bam, bam. And it was like missed Cade Cunningham, missed Cade Cunningham, missed Cade Cunningham. They go to overtime. They end up down 6. And then somehow Miami chokes it back and Detroit comes back. It was just the weirdest game ever. So that was crazy. And you had Philly beating Charlotte. But really, the team I'm looking at right now, the 2 teams are Philly, Charlotte, 3 teams, Philly, Charlotte, Brooklyn. And those are teams, one of those teams you're going to be facing very soon, and that's Brooklyn. And Brooklyn did not look good tonight. Just take a quick look here at the Brooklyn game. You got 22 points from Cameron Johnson. Evan Mobley was a little bit of a, question mark coming in. Would he play? Would he not play? Would he be on minutes restriction? And he played, and he led them in scoring. So that was easy peasy. And of course, they play Ben Simmons 31 minutes. Crazy. Keon Johnson probably started in place of Dennis Schroeder, who was just recently traded. The Brooklyn Nets did this last year as well, right? They started out pretty competitively, and now they've lost a bunch of games. I think they've lost 5 of 6 now, and they're heading into the next one against the Raptors, and it's going to look bad. I'm going to tell you right now, I think the Raptors are going to smoke them. If the Raptors play the way they did tonight, they'll still smoke them because this Brooklyn Nets team is really bad. And without Dennis Schroeder and with maybe taking a chemistry hit, I don't think that's going to be a particularly hard game to lose. And, when you trade away a starting point guard for a guy who's not playing, everyone in the locker room understands what's happening. Philly does get a clutch win here. So if you're looking at it from the tank perspective, you know, you kind of it's a mixed bag, right? I mean, obviously Utah is playing tonight as well. That's a tank implication as well. But if you're looking at it from the perspective of, you know, Philly, you're gonna have to catch these teams. If you're actually gonna make the playoffs, you have to catch both teams that won tonight, which is Philly and Chicago. And I'm just not sure, you know, at this point, if Jakob Poeltl is missing any significant amount of time, what you're gonna do. You can see the win probability right here. Okay. And for a brief moment, the Raptors made it interesting around 2 minutes to go, where the win probability was cut to 64%. And then there was that other one where, you know, Taylor Horton Tucker steps to the line, splits a pair of free throws. And you're just thinking, if he misses both of them, Jamal Shead basically pushes this to overtime. So the Raptors were favored coming into this game. And then as the line started to move throughout the day, they were no longer favored during this game. So that was a very interesting turn. And I hadn't seen the Raptors favored in a long time. So I was like, what is going on? Like, what does Vegas think? And why is Vegas setting the line at 1.5, 2.5 for this game? And, you know, you see it. Vegas knows, man. Vegas seems to always know. The Toronto Raptors are more efficient tonight. They almost match 3 for 3. They hit 22 threes. The Bulls hit 22 threes. The difference on the glass was nominal. Like, it's a really small amount. The assists, the Bulls get more assists basically because they run 3-point guards with Billy Donovan pretty much all the time. Really, it just comes down to turnovers. It's right there. It's right there for you, man. The turnovers were the game. That's the whole game. Okay. The turnovers, 9 combined turnovers between 2 of your lead initiators, which is your starting point guard and your backup point guard, your third string point guard. So basically tonight, RJ played point, right? Well, a lot has been made recently about RJ Barrett plays point guard. Is RJ Barrett a point guard, et cetera, et cetera? Okay. Well, I'll call that myth right now. RJ Barrett is not a point guard, but it's nice to see he's getting some reps as a guard. But it's worth noting that in a combined 50, 52, 53 minutes. In a combined 53 minutes, Davion Mitchell and RJ Barrett combined for 9 turnovers. That's the bulk of your turnovers, right? You have 17, 9 are 2 guys. Now, also worth saying, like, you have some egregious turnovers from, you know, Jonathan Mobo. Like, there was at least one that was like crazy turnover from him. If you're going to handle the basketball a lot, you're going to turn the ball over a lot. I just think sometimes, you know, RJ Barrett, there's one particular play that we're going to look at later where it's like just such a obvious don't make that pass, right? The Bulls are not a great defense. They're not a great defense. They're not a great interior defense. I think Lonzo Ball is a pretty good defender, but coming back from this injury, he hasn't been good. Ayo Dosunmu's not a great defender by any means. He didn't shoot well tonight, neither did Kobe White. They combined 10 for 30. So you did an okay job, but that's not even the truth. They just missed open shots, man. Ayo was open so often, right? Who did the damage for the Bulls? Really, it was Taylor Horton Tucker, right? Just getting to the front of the rim whenever he wanted, cooking anybody. Julian Phillips with a stretch that should go down in basketball history, you know, of 12 minutes where, you know, there was like a play. It was back to back to back. He broke their back and he really opened the game up. I thought Matas Buzelis looked good. You know, Jalen Smith, a stretch big. You know, again, they play 5 out. They play with space, right? And it doesn't matter. Sometimes their shooters are not going to shoot well, and they're going to have nights like tonight where they shoot 14 for 40. I'm looking at the quality of the threes they got. They got good threes, man. It is really amazing that the Raptors were even close in this game. And yeah. Okay, let's exit that and let us get to the film breakdown, and then we'll get to Coach Mo. Okay. Give me 1 second. Coach Mo, hang tight. The film breakdown won't be too long. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Emotionally and mentally, I was very checked out in the third quarter. That third quarter, I think they allowed 44 points. I was like, if you're not going to play, I'm not going to watch. And while I continue to watch, I can't say that I was all that invested or interested in the game during the third quarter. It was really in the fourth quarter that I really, really just became insanely interested. Hang on 1 second here. Okay. atrocious defense. Like this is where we're starting off, right? Like here we go. Taylor Horton Tucker, Garrett Temple, and he's gonna get a switch here on Chris Boucher. Boucher hugging Horton Tucker at the line like he's some great 3-point shooter. Kelly Olynyk has a job to do here. Once Chris Boucher gets beat, Olynyk has to recover. He has to rotate. Olynyk has decided defense is not his job. What the fuck are you doing? That's incredible. That is incredible. To sit there in no man's land. I'm not even that mad at it because obviously at this point I've made it known that I'm not really rooting for wins. But yo, like you cannot be this god awful. Okay. This was an awesome play. So we're gonna look at some good plays. This is a really good RJ play, and this is a really bad moment for Ayo Dosunmu. Here, Ayo Dosunmu is going to turn his head on RJ Barrett. RJ Barrett is going to realize that, and before Dosunmu can turn, and before Kobe White can seal this gap, and he's going to kind of go for a little bit of a gamble. They both kind of go for a gamble here. They both gamble. They both fail, and RJ Barrett gets a wide open dunk. Okay. At this point, I was about to just like break my remote. This is just disgusting basketball. Okay, here now, RJ is going to have a turnover here. It's going to be poked loose by Josh Giddey. And again, he's attacking many defenders here. And you can see how the Chicago Bulls feel about Davion Mitchell by how they're guarding him right now, which is that say they're not guarding him. And he is doing some heavy lifting for your tank right now, just with his spacing. You can say he's making threes. Of course he's making threes. He's made 3 of his last 3-point. Like, I don't think he's missed it. I don't think he's missed a 3 in a long time. I don't think he missed one tonight either. So he's just been hitting them threes. He doesn't take enough, though, to punish the defense, and he makes life really hard for everybody else. Now here, look at this atrocious-ass defense. Now RJ's behind the play, Yak is behind the play, and Dosunmu is behind the play. And here, Josh Giddey, and Josh Giddey's not a shooter, right? So where is this pass going? Well, Mobo recovers to cut off the pass to Jalen Smith. So this pass is going to Julian Phillips. I can see that. Right here, I can see that. Davion Mitchell should be able to see that. Jakob Poeltl should be able to see that. And Jonathan Mobo is going to see this, but he's going to see it a little late. And once again, this sort of like reach for what? Reach for nothing. This is egregious. I call this garbage. Okay. This is going to be a miscommunication by Davion and Jonathan Mobo, where they're both going to be pointing to somebody when it's really on them. Okay. Now here, we saw this in the last game too. I called it out with Davion Mitchell, where he's going to ask somebody else to do something. Now, he's got his eye on the ball. Okay. He's got his eye on the basketball. And right here, if he's asking for a switch, Jonathan Mobo does have a job to then rotate and then catch up with Julian Phillips so that Julian Phillips can't break free. Josh Giddey's a great playmaker, great passer. He sees this. He reads this play the entire way through. His head is always up on a swivel. A lot of people say a lot of stuff about Josh Giddey, but divorce the personal stuff from the basketball stuff. He's a fantastic player in terms of playmaking and playmaking talent. There's a reason why the Bulls offense, and it doesn't take him long. And you see that both of these Raptors are pointing to somebody to cover, and you have 5 Raptors basically standing in a line, and Julian Phillips. Like, if this is football, y'all fucked up. You are not winning the Super Bowl here. And Josh Giddey, they don't play football in Australia, but they damn sure play basketball. So that is just egregious. And I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about Davion Mitchell kind of showing up Jonathan Mobo like this. Kind of just like, like what the fuck, This demonstrative stuff is a little weird to me. Now, you can argue Mobo is wrong. 100%. This is on Jonathan Mobo. If Davion is calling for that switch, then this is on Jonathan Mobo. If they both have the same idea and Mobo just has like a second gap, he points too. He's like, hey, that guy, he's getting through. And it's just like, who y'all pointing to? This is just bad court mapping. This was a very embarrassing play. Jack Armstrong called it out as well. And speaking of embarrassing plays, this is really bad. This is horrible. This is atrocious defense. Here, Kelly Olynyk is going to do nothing, and nobody is going to close the gap here. They're just going to let Vucevic drive right to the basket, and nobody cares. Nobody's behind. That's what 5-out spacing can do sometimes. But if you're going to play that way and you know there's no help back there, you have to be very disciplined. Now, this is one more of those RJ Barrett turnovers that we referenced. Again, you're projecting this way too much. Okay? And it doesn't take a genius to know that that is going to be where it's going to be. And Kobe White's not really a good defender at all. So it's not like Lonzo Ball stripped this or Io DeSumo. Like Kobe White is not a great defender, in my opinion. And here, kind of a compliment sandwich for RJ Barrett. On the one hand, really tough turnover. On the other hand, great defense. This is the second straight game where I've seen RJ Barrett do something exactly like this. And that is very impressive because he doesn't do things like this. RJ is not a good defender at all. He's been atrocious. So the fact that he's able to do that. Now here, some people say I say some bad stuff about Davion Mitchell sometimes. I'm going to say something really good. This is one of the most impressive defensive plays from a physics standpoint that I've ever seen in my life. That is insane. I don't know how he did it. I don't know, jumping backwards, how you're able to do that without fouling is crazy. Okay, here's the Jakob Poeltl injury. And this is bad. Like, this is bad news, man. Like, he is a 7-footer going down on a wet spot right there. And that splits right there. And the reaction says it all. It was probably a good sign that he was able to walk back on his own, that he didn't need to be stretchered off or anything like that. This is probably going to be a strain, and he's probably going to miss a couple games, I would assume. It doesn't seem like this is going to be like, oh my God, Jakob Poeltl is out for 3 months now. But the Raptors would be very wise to, play it kind of careful with him, because you have this guy getting injured and it's the trade deadline. And then now he's going to come back. And if he struggles, now he's rusty from the injury. He's still dealing with it. And the numbers start to go down. Like, you have something real at stake here, which is, possibly a player that a lot of teams might want and might call about. You can't have him on the injured reserve. Okay, here goes. Grady, crazy play. Now here comes the fourth quarter. This is the fourth quarter. We're going to look at a lot of plays in the fourth quarter because really, I wasn't kidding. I really checked out of the third quarter and I did not care. I was watching it and I'm like, I'm not clipping this because I don't care. And here we go. Jamal Shead. Point guard, baby. Wide open shot for Grady Dick. And he had already, started to catch a little bit fire at that point. So really good. Oh my goodness, indeed. Okay. Great players make great plays, I said. Okay, here, you're going to see Lonzo Ball make a really decent play here. Okay. Jonathan Mobo played center for this unit. It looked very good. Very good. Because finally you were active and mobile, and you didn't have like a 7-footer who was just really slow-footed and playing deep drop, right? So from a matchup perspective, Jonathan Mobo was your best center tonight by far. And here he's going to really risky play by Mobo to drop Vucevic like that. Vucevic was a bit of a flop. Grady, decent defense. I'm sure awful coaching or someone's going to be like, why are you letting him do this? Well, Lonzo Ball hasn't been shooting great from 3. And this is just a big shot. Sometimes players do that. They make big shots. And another player that made a really big shot? Here's another one. Another Jamal Shead to Grady Dick 3-pointer. And you're down 6 at this point with 104 to go, 103, 102. You get the paint touch. What did Vin Bavnani say, the Raptors assistant coach? Paint to great. Well, that was paint, and this is great. Awesome. Okay. The next play is going to be an RJ Barrett calling his own number, going up on Vucevic. I'm not really sure how I felt about this. Talen Horton-Tucker is a very, very long defender. He's not a great defender, but he's competent. And he's going to bother this. Okay. Talen Horton-Tucker is one of the weirdest bodied players in NBA history. On the one hand, he's built like a power forward. On the other hand, he kind of moves like a wing. And he has the arms of a center. So arms and legs of probably a center. So he's like a 6'4" center guard. He's just a really weird player. And I think that him contesting this right here is just enough to make RJ miss. Because you can see he's sort of going up with it, and then he just kind of aims it away from the shot blocker. And I think that just makes it worse. And then here, Kobe White with just a very big key offensive rebound over, by the way, one of the best offensive rebounders in the league in Jonathan Mobo, who nearly steals that for you. And here we go. Another great play by Jamal Shead. Watch this. Okay. Long shot, long rebound. Little fake. I told y'all Kobe White is an awful defender. Now here, they're willing to live with this layup because of the differential, right? But it's now a 3-point game, 118, 121. They foul Talen Horton Tucker. He misses the first one. He makes the second. And here, Jamal Shead, in true Kyle Lowry-esque form, coming down. Lonzo Ball, not his first rodeo. He's not going to allow Jamal Shead to even bait him into a 4-point play here. He puts his arms back, and Shead banks this in. And this is after leading the Raptors 905 to a victory just yesterday. So I'm going to tell you something, man. Jamal Shead, that's your future at the point guard position, man. He is a really, really good player. He is a really good young player. I don't know if that means he's going to be, in the league for, 10 years, 2 years, 1 year, 5 years. I just know that wherever he's playing basketball, he's going to win. He's going to do winning things, whether it's in the G League, whether it's in Europe, whether it's on the Raptors. And I hope it is on the Raptors. Y'all know that I'm rooting for Jamal Shead big time. But yeah. All right. Let's bring on Coach Mo. Thank you for waiting, Coach. What up?
You guys know Denzel and He Got Game?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was Jamal Shead, fourth quarter. I just saw the afro in the red shirt. I'm like, oh my God. I gotta say, I agree with you in that third quarter, bro. I'm at the point with this team where I don't care about Jakob Poeltl, like not even a little bit. I don't care about Davion Mitchell, not even a little bit. I don't care about um, Kelly Olynyk, not even a little bit. I don't care about Bruce Brown, not even a little bit. I don't care about Chris Boucher, not even a little bit. I don't care. If they retired tomorrow, I don't care. Let the young boys run.
I mean,
It's
you
a
would care
wrap.
if they retired because they're
I
on the
don't
books.
care. Let the kids play, bro.
They're on the books though, and I'm gonna tell you something. If the kids had played today, you win this game. You might win this game. If just the kids played, you might have won this game, man.
Bro, it's crazy. Like you mentioned it where it's like if we were losing because of the young talent, it's concerning, bro. How I would say it's more so the vets that are making us lose. The quote unquote vets.
It's clutch, man. They know what's at stake. Do you feel okay? Dyson Daniels had this quote about New Orleans basically being cursed, right? He's like, I don't know what's going on down there. Everyone gets injured. I'm happy I don't play there anymore, right? Do you think like Raptors have a curse this year with injuries? Because like if Jakob Poeltl, if I hear, Michael Grange or someone be like, Jakob Poeltl out for 2 weeks, I'm gonna snap. Because at this point, it's like you keep getting these pieces back, and then you keep losing other pieces, and it's like you can give it like 1 game max, right? Where a piece is healthy before the next piece drops,
But like the only two pieces I want back are Scottie and IQ. That's it. I want my dream, bro. My dream is IQ starting point guard, Shed backup point guard. That's it. That's all I want.
Okay.
That's it.
I'm okay. So I tried to do something cool today. I played NBA 2K25, the Dynasty mode, right? My NBA. And I played out 2 seasons. Okay. It was wild, bro. Because literally 1 year in, made the finals. That's the beautiful thing about video games. Okay. Scottie took a huge step, ended up trading for Lauri Markkanen, ended up trading for Cam Johnson, ended up trading for Herb Jones, ended up actually trading our 2025 draft pick, which was a crazy decision at the time because it was like we were tanking and then we just untanked, went into the playoffs, got bounced in the first round by New York, then went to the second, went to the finals the next year. And you know what I did right after that?
What?
Tore it down. So there are 4 players from the current core. Wait, hold on. Let me make sure. Yes, that's true. There were 4 players from the current core that I kept on the team that made past the finals. Who do you think those 4 players were?
So 4 players
from the current team survived till AJ Debonsa. Because basically the crazy thing is,
I already know who they are.
You hold on. Let me give you a cheat sheet. Okay, so I'm gonna summarize what happened before I make the video because I'm kind of spoiling it now. But what happened was I created this dynasty mode, and at the trade deadline, this year's trade deadline, I got a crazy offer from Utah and New Orleans Pelicans to do this trade, and the only concession was I had to trade this unprotected 2025 pick, which was crazy because at the time the team was like 15 and like 30, so it's like, oh my God, this is going to be a bad team. But I figured with that pick going out and Lauri Markkanen, Cam Johnson, Herb Jones coming in, that I could make a run to like potentially the playoffs. And then that pick that I would convey, basically I did what the Raptors did with the Jakob thing, except this time I actually worked out. Raptors went on a huge run that offseason, ended up lucking ass backwards and got the 5th overall pick. Kept basically traded some picks, traded some stuff, traded some future stuff, got the 5th overall pick, drafted Kaman Malawach, ended up building out a competitive roster, filling it out with solid vets, made it all the way to the finals with that team. And then after making it to the finals, I decided, we lost them. Call back. Shit. There were so many players who were traded in order to make that reality come true, in order to get Lauri Markkanen, in order to get all those players. But does anyone know? I don't know if Coach Mo's calling back, but does anyone know who the 4 players? I'll flash them one by one if y'all guess them. Okay, who were the 4 players who survived from 2024 Raptors, which is your current core right now, the current team, till 2026 Raptors, when I basically gutted the team to trade for the 1st overall pick in 2026. Yo, what up?
Sorry, I tried to change my avatar.
Oh, that's funny.
Okay. Show, baby.
Okay. Awesome. Who are the 4 players? Now, I'm very curious if you know.
It's Scottie.
Yes, that's 1.
It's Jacoby.
That's 2.
It's Grady.
No.
Okay, so I know who the 3rd one is. It's Jonathan Mogbo.
God damn it. Yes.
Okay, Jonathan Mogbo 3. And I guess the last one would be, it's either Shed or Ulrich. And I'm going to go with Ulrich.
How did you know that? Oh, no. God damn it. How did you know that? Damn it. I'm so predictable. Fuck. Okay, so Key M, you're wild for this. Are you crazy? Come on, man. He was traded before the game started. Okay, fuck out of here. No, I mean literally. I was the YouTube expert saying we listened to the show. Pretty easy to guess. So Jonathan Mogbo was the backup center. I'm actually gonna see if I can flash the roster on here. Yeah. So Jonathan Mogbo was the backup center. The starting center, backup center, power forward. Ended up getting Trey Murphy in the deal with New Orleans Pelicans as well. So it was like this crazy combo. But eventually ended up moving off of Grady, plus Lauri Markkanen, plus the 7th overall pick to move up to draft AJ Debonsa. So Grady went to the finals. Grady was on the team that got to the finals. The team that won the finals was the OKC Thunder, and Grady got cooked defensively every game, destroyed. And it was just too much to make up for. So you have, on the one hand, you have Trey Murphy, you have, you have Cam Johnson, you have Lauri Markkanen, you have Scottie Barnes, you have these players, you have Kaman Malawach in there trying to shore everything up. But in the end, it's just not enough because you always have this one defensive liability. And I was like, you know what I could do? I could tear this down. And that's when I realized something. I'm not sentimental. I just don't care. I'm like you. I don't fucking care.
No,
to me, it's like the end result is I want to watch great basketball. It's not even championships, because championships cannot be guaranteed. I want to watch great basketball. I want to watch the OKC Thunder. I wish the OKC Thunder played in Toronto. Like, that's what I want to watch. I want to watch brilliant, coached, great players every fucking night and have that chance to whoop any team in the league. There's no one you're afraid of. You need a top three. You need a closer. You got Shea. You need a defender. You got 5 of them. You need a stretch big. Yeah, you got multiple of those too. You need a second star. You got it. There's nothing missing. Nothing.
Honestly, Kendrick Williams might be our closing 5. And
For
that dude's like their 3rd, 4th string big.
The gap that people don't realize, and I'm not trying to be mean when I say this, if you watch other teams play, it's staggering how much we gas up our players.
And we're talking about Jakob. He's all-star Jakob. And it's like, bro, you are, I was thinking the other day, how many, if it's just us versus OKC, how many two-way players do OKC have? How many players on OKC are above average defenders that can also hit threes, right? How many 3-and-D level players do they have? And how many do we have? How many players on our team can play both ends? Because OKC, it's almost every player plays both ends.
Facts.
We have almost exclusively one-way players.
That's true. Okay, I'm actually curious to try this out. Let's do a draft. Both OKC and Toronto's rosters. Since Toronto's roster, I'm actually just going to put OKC's roster on the screen. And what I would like to do is to create a roster of both teams, and I want to see which Raptors make the final OKC plus. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's say a 9-man playoff rotation. How many?
No. We go 12 deep. We'll make we'll make it fair, because if we do 9, like I think like maybe 1 or 2 Raptors are gonna make it max. Okay, and that's me being very generous. Okay, so let's pull this up. Always a fun segment. Okay, this is OKC's. This is OKC's roster. And a giant ad for them. Okay, cool. So with the first pick, I'm just going to pick Shai Gilgeous-Alexander because I think that's just fair. Okay. Whoops. What is the second pick?
Scottie Barnes.
Over Jalen Williams.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna pick. Whoa. Oh, okay. Over Chet Holmgren too. Okay, I'm gonna pick Chet 3rd.
I'm going to pick Jalen Williams 4th.
Damn. Okay, cool. That's 4. Okay, who's your 5th? Who's my 5th pick? All right. My 5th pick. I gotta go 5th pick. I'm going to go 5th pick. Who do I go with here? I'm tempted to say Isaiah Hartenstein, but that would be wrong. I'm also tempted to say Lou Dort, but that would probably also be wrong. If I'm trying to construct a starting lineup, what do I need in that starting lineup? I want defense.
Was this for this season or GM for the future? Like,
Okay, I'm gonna say Emmanuel
If this
quickly.
is for this season, it's gonna get ugly for Toronto.
I'm gonna say Emmanuel quickly. Am I crazy?
Yeah.
Okay. Who should it be? Should it be Isaiah Hartenstein? So you have the double bigs. You have Scottie at the forward. Yeah. I mean, Chet, Isaiah, Hartenstein, Scottie Barnes, basically in place of Lou Dort, Jalen Williams, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Everyone's going to say RJ Barrett or Emmanuel quickly, but they don't realize that this lineup needs, what does this lineup need most of? You've got the shooting four. You got the defensive three. You need shooting. You know, I'm inclined to say Emmanuel quickly here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with IQ for the fifth. Yeah. Yeah. What's your sixth pick?
My sixth pick is this future or right now?
Right now. Isaiah Hartenstein, Jakob Poeltl.
So I
RJ Barrett.
I have Scottie. Give me Hartenstein.
Okay. So far we've got 4 Thunder players and 2 Raptors. Okay. My next pick is going to be Lou Dort. Because, damn, is it going to be Lou Dort or is it going to be Alex Caruso? I am inclined to say it's going to be Lou Dort. But weirdly enough, I think Alex Caruso is a better player.
I'm going Caruso.
Yeah. Let's go Caruso. Okay. Who's next?
You're next.
I'm next? No, I just picked Caruso, didn't I?
I picked Caruso. You picked Lou Dort.
Oh, I see what happened here. Okay, hang on. We're gonna bring Recruiter Dude on. Recruiter Dude, what's up?
How you guys doing?
I'm all right. Trying to get to this. Oh, are you stuck in a rainstorm?
Yeah.
Damn.
You guys are gassing up OKC a little bit, though. No,
No.
Doesn't this feel like like 12 years ago when it was the Durant, Westbrook, Thunder, and everyone was like heralding how amazing they were and that we should be more like them.
They were
that
amazing.
team was like 5 players. That team was 5 players. This team's like
10
11.
players. Yeah.
I know, but they made one finals and they never won.
Okay, but that was because they lost James Harden because they're cheap ass ownership. This ownership, while cheap, is smarter because they have multiple first round picks. Like, do you know what the funniest thing is? The OKC team that beat me in NBA2K25 in 2025 had Norman Powell on it because they just traded one of their fucking firsts. Whenever this team wants to go all in, they can do whatever they want. They have so many picks. That's the crazy part. It's an embarrassment of riches. I don't know. How many games of theirs have you watched? Like, I would think Isaiah Joe would be a starter for us. Like, he's so good.
No, but okay, but if you take Shai out of it,
then
what?
They're
it's still a playoff team, man.
It's still a playoff team, but they don't win. And the point is that you have one of the most unbelievable egotistical human beings running a franchise in Steve Ballmer, who thinks he's a god and has probably a god complex. No, I understand. And then he basically gives away a really promising player in a very one-sided trade. And we can say, okay, in retrospect or in hindsight, we can say that now. But I think at the time, Shai was still, people believed he was going to be a good player. Maybe not this good, obviously, but it's one of the stupidest trades in NBA history. And
at the time, it made a lot of sense for people. I myself felt like that's a little too much to give up, and I think they themselves felt that it was a lot to give up. And when Lawrence Frank went up to Steve Ballmer, and Steve Ballmer said, "This is a lot," he said, "Don't think of it as all of this for PG. Think of it as all of this for Kawhi and PG." And because Raptors Kawhi was basically Michael Jordan, they sold themselves on the idea. They really believed in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The Raptors really believed in Shai, you know? So here's the thing. You said if you remove Shai, it's not a championship contender. Well, if you remove any best player, if you remove Magic, the Lakers Showtime weren't a championship contender. If you remove Shaq and Kobe is not a championship contender.
No, I understand. But the point is, like, I understand the point you're making, that we wish we were them. And I also wish we were them. And I also wish we were that lucky getting a player like Shai, is what I'm saying. Anyway, but I don't mean to throw a wrench into it.
I don't think it was luck, man. I think they identified a talent. They didn't know what they had, but they took a calculated gamble on a player that had showed a really strong drive to be better. You know, the Raptors wanted Shai very much. They tried to trade into the draft to get him, right? So, I mean, there were measurable elements to his growth and trajectory that were supposed to be good. And I'm not saying I want us to be OKC or that I think we should be OKC. That's a far gone conclusion. Like that's far in the distance. What I'm saying is, would our starting center be their backup center? Or would they value what their backup center currently does, which is shoot the basketball? Both their backup centers shoot the basketball. Kenrich Williams and Jalen Williams both shoot the basketball.
Yep.
Would they value that over what Yak does? And to the point where the inevitable championship favorites, which is, in my opinion, the OKC Thunder, and on the East, it would be the Boston Celtics. I don't think either of those teams would play a player like Jakob Poeltl very many minutes.
Nope.
Now, the Boston Celtics would play him in the role of Luke Cornett to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm just saying, like there's tiers and levels to talent, and that's something that I realize every day when I watch other teams play basketball. That every team has a Julian Phillips and a Gigi Jackson and a Toumani Camara. Like these are really underrated players that most Raptor fans would have a hard time believing are even real people, but they're real and they're good players, right? Like I don't know, did you, a recruiter dude, did you watch Houston versus OKC the other day?
I was just going to bring that up. And and Houston maybe wins that game if Fred doesn't basically hit a brick wall. I mean, like the OKC, and you said this in your earlier shows, like they're not unbeatable. No team's unbeatable. Like there's still a path. They can lose on a bad day. That's why I love these cup games, because like it's tournament kind of basketball, you know. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, I hear what you're saying.
I think they're gonna win tomorrow. I mean, for what it's worth, I think they should win.
Of course, they're going to win tomorrow. Like this is such such a huge imbalance in the conferences. I don't think they're gonna blow them out though.
No, I don't either. And you know, there was a particular commentator who was saying the two best players in the NBA Cup Finals are Giannis Antetokounmpo and Damian Lillard, and I nearly spit out my coffee. What is with this Shai Gilgeous-Alexander disrespect? Where the hell did this come from? Like I would put this guy right now up against some of the greatest players that I've ever seen in my life. He is that good to me. Maybe I'm stupid. But
I know you're a Melo fan, and the funny thing is that move, like that pause with the jumper, like that's quintessential Melo, and I think Shai's mastered it. I think he's. I give it far even to say that he's surpassed him with that technique. Like he's so deadly.
He's so flexible.
I know.
Like his movement is not. It's very alien actually. Like there's steps that he takes that are half steps, and then there's steps that he takes that are 1.5 steps. And there's no way to predict his next move, whether it's going to be a half, a quarter, or a 2-step. And that throws the defense off rhythm completely. He has mastered his footwork at a level that I can only dream that Scottie will ever get to. Because if Scottie ever gets to his level of footwork, he's going to be the greatest player of all time. You know?
Yeah.
Like that level of manipulation, that level of physical control over yourself is just insane. What I'm trying to say, though, is that Jalen Williams, no slouch either. Chet Holmgren, really good player. Most teams would be happy to build around either one of those players as the franchise cornerstone.
That's the point I wanted to make. Okay, remove Scottie.
That's one thing. The second part of this, which I think is very, very important to realize, is did you watch Amen Thompson? Did you watch Tari Eason? Now, I love Grady, love Jacoby, love Jonathan Mobo. But do you see an accelerated gap between Amen Thompson and the players that I just named? Because there is one, and it's a pretty big one. Okay? So as much as I believe in Darko Rajakovic's coaching and his development staff, there is a clear lack of absolute blue chip talent on this team, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And by I mean blue chip talent, I mean Cooper Flagg. By blue chip talent, I do mean Scottie Barnes. I do mean Evan Mobley. I mean like franchise altering. That player's on the court. What's the Raptors defense with Scottie Barnes? 16th. What is it without? 24th. That gap. That player, that their presence in your lineup alone pretty much moves you half a stack up the conference, right? If Scottie plays all the games, I'm pretty sure we're close to 500, even with all the other injuries. But if Scottie plays none of the games, we might have 5 wins right now. Like, it's such a big gap. And Scottie's not the only player in the league that has that level of impact. There are other players. Guys like Chet Holmgren have that element of impact, you know? And then there's just lesser players that people kind of sell themselves on, like the DeMar DeRozans of the world, that just kind of just move the score around. They don't really impact, you know? Like, it sounds crazy to say one of the greatest scorers of all time, one of the most voluminous scorers of all time, isn't really moving the needle on winning and losing. But I feel like if you take DeMar DeRozan off those 56, 58 win team Raptors, and you go with a league average Tim Hardaway Jr., I'm talking league average, Danny Green, league average, you're moving down 2 wins. So that's what I'm trying to express here, is some of these guys, because of their defensive limitations, do not really impact the end result of the game, whereas Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, on the other hand, does. Amen Thompson does. Tari Eason does. Scottie Barnes does. So it's like, to me, the thing that I noticed when I was doing my NBA 2K25 build is I hate bad defenders. I did not have one bad defender. And the second player archetype, all love to Jamal Shead, I don't like undersized guards. My shortest player was 6'6". So size and defense is all I care about when it comes to championships. Look at the Boston Celtics.
There's a defensive version of Grady that's not unplayable, you know?
No one's saying he's unplayable.
Yeah.
There's certain players on this team that I think are borderline unplayable. He's not unplayable, but he's never going to be an overwhelming positive on that end. He can at best ever be neutral. At best. Like, what's his upside defensively? Danilo Gallinari? Like, what is the upside? Like, do you see a 55th percentile defender, a 45th percentile defender? I'll be very happy if he achieves 50th percentile. That would be a massive progression for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Danilo was never that quick, though. Danilo was always kind of like plodding, where Grady has like some acceleration. But I mean, he drew that charge today, and it could have gone either way. His defense against Ball wasn't abysmal, but it wasn't good.
But it's Lonzo Ball right now, and it's not the most dynamic player. I've seen him get cooked routinely off the dribble. He's not very competitive on switches. He gets blown by. He's not great at the rim. Like, if he was as good a defender as Ochai Agbaji, I'm willing to say Grady Dick is a future All-Star. Right now, there's a gap. There's a gap. Yeah. He needs to close the gap between himself and Ochai Agbaji. And Ochai himself is not a great defender. He's just looking much better because he's playing with a whole bunch of guys who can't defend. Yeah. So I don't know, man. I'm at a point where I'm like looking around this league. I'm looking at guys like Cason Wallace. Who would you rather have for real right now? If you could trade Emmanuel quickly for Cason Wallace, would you do it?
Yes. I wanted Cason. We were a pick away. Mm-hmm. We were the next pick, and we got Grady. So it's not like he wasn't on the board. It's just you have two really smart front offices.
I think he was the 11th pick, if I'm not mistaken. Derek Lively was a 12th pick. Yeah, what's up?
Ahmad, so we saw what Jamal Shead did in the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Now take that and make it better.
6'5".
That's Cason Wallace. That's Cason
pretty
Wallace.
much.
Take that fourth quarter and just make it better.
Cason's amazing. Cason's an amazing player.
He's really good.
He's 6'3.5", 6'4", and he can guard centers, and he can guard point guards, and he can guard everybody. He's amazing.
He's naturally gifted defender. When you see Grady get a stop, that dude worked hard. Mm-hmm. Like he gave it everything he got, and he's like, dude, I can't play offense. I fought for my life to get that defensive stop. When you watch guys like Drew Holiday, Cason Wallace, Alex Caruso, they do this in their sleep.
Absolutely.
It's fun for them. When you see Marcus Smart get a stop on Embiid, he's like, just another day at the office. We got guys who have they have to be focused. They have to do everything they can. They have to be perfect just to keep the guy in front of them for a couple dribbles. Like
that's low key kind of funny.
That's what's going on here. And we have so many players where if they're not knocking down shots, they're basically unplayable tonight.
I think I'm hoping that RJ will progress defensively. I've seen some very, very good things.
He won't. What year is he in? 6?
Mm-hmm.
Also, offensively, is he not one of the most predictable players ever?
Yeah, but Mo, he looks like shit because he's playing with like the team's decimated. Like I can't watch a lot of more games like this, guys. Like I wanted to ask both of you if Brown and Kelly are not frozen out of the lineup, is there a version of this team with all their injuries that maybe has a couple of more wins? Like even with the injuries, aren't we as good as at least Brooklyn? Come on, like they can't be like there was some design here. There was some this was a little bit intentional. Like I'm not saying like some grand conspiracy theory, but like
no. It's the Da Vinci Code, bro. It's legit.
And so now we're waiting around like, oh, blue chip, you're not wrong. And it's I'm beating a dead horse, and I know that you said picking up Brown's option was freaking dumb, and I think unless we get something forward, it's looking pretty dumb. And I might be premature, but we're sitting around waiting for a scratch lottery ticket at the end of this year. And if it's 7th pick, like they'll still get a good player, but it's going to be like one of those seasons like, holy shit, like we lost 60 games for the 7th pick. Like what the fuck? Excuse my language, you know? Sorry to interrupt.
No, I feel that. I think overall, like this is a team that lacks.
Of course, RJ looks like he's really hamming it up. But like what, it's the RJ show. You can't even sell that ticket. You can't give it away. And I like RJ, but I don't want to watch the RJ. Who wants to watch the RJ show? It's brutal.
A lot of people really enjoy watching, a player just go to the paint over and over and convert roughly 45% of his shots and occasionally hit a couple threes, make some passes, throw some turnovers. He's a needle pusher. Like he pushes the score up and down, right? Like, I don't know. You ever see a kid who has their Cheerios and they're just like playing with their Cheerios and they think they're doing something? They're moving it around. You know what I mean? Like they're moving it from left to right. They move it left to right. And they're like, Daddy, go boom. And it's like, bro, you moved 8 inches left, 8 inches right. That's what you did. Okay. So that's kind of where I'm at, where, you need somebody to fill buckets. As what my old coach used to say is every team, no matter how bad, has a leading scorer. Okay. Every team. And all of history of basketball, every shit JUCO system, every Division III burnout, all of them had a leading scorer who put up 25, 26 points. Yeah, it's not the most entertaining brand of basketball. Some people think Scottie Barnes is not the most entertaining brand of basketball. I don't judge them. I just, actually I do judge them pretty hard, not gonna lie. But I think overall, I don't know what the end result is of this. But what I do know is that this team has done everything in their power to be bad. Short of literally asking players, go out and miss shots. They have done everything in their power to be bad.
They're sabotaging. There's some sabotaging going on. I agree with that. But Scottie missing as many games as he has is the number one reason this record is what it is. Because if you have Scottie tonight, this is a dub. This is a dub. If we didn't have Scottie in that Miami game at home, that's a loss too. Because RJ driving left does not work in the last 2 minutes. It ain't happening.
Yeah. RIP D Rose. I've seen some of your comments before too. You suffer from a particular affliction of, serial pushing yourself. So what I would say to you is this is not slander. It's not slander at all. Nobody's slandering RJ Barrett. Did I say he had a bad game? I said he had a mixed game. He had an okay game. He had the 9 assists. Great. He drove offense when nobody else was driving offense. He's a perfectly fine player. And if you want to convince yourself that what you're watching, the 31, 32 points every now and again, what you're watching is an all-star, you go right ahead. You go right ahead. But we have a word for people like you, box score watchers. That's what you are. You're
nobody's slandering RJ. This is the Mo Peterson effect. This is I don't blame RJ. Like it's a culmination of events. I think some of them might have been avoidable in terms of exaggeration, and there's people in the chat, and I don't blame them, and all over Raptor space who are happy because
I just want to ask these people.
I love RJ. I won't be silenced.
All right,
bro. Come on.
R.I.P. D Rose. Of all the clutch games we've had that Scottie wasn't in, I swear there were like 10. How many of those games did RJ take us home? How many?
None. He missed every shot he's taken.
Bro.
I think RJ Barrett is there a stat for clutch percentage? There is.
This guy has been in all of these games that went down to the last minute and we lose them all. The one we won is the Vince Carter retirement ceremony. That's it. That was it. I don't know what we're all watching the same thing. He goes ham for 3.5 quarters. And it's like you said, he's just moving the Cheerios around. It's Nerf hoops. Then Daddy gets up off the chair and starts smacking the ball.
I think there's this perceptive gap between how people who understand the game and see the game, scouts, GMs, etc., most of them, not all, see certain players. And then there's a gap between how people who play basketball recreationally see certain players, fans see players, and pros see players. I think that every one of those demographics has a particular bias, right? Whereas general managers in general, and people who are basketball professionals who are employed by NBA teams, have probably a bias towards numbers, deeper numbers, analytics, right? Whereas maybe the casual fan has a bias towards box score stats, and people who play basketball professionally or recreationally have a bias towards eye test. So a player like DeMar DeRozan is going to rank very high with players, but probably a lot lower with general managers. I'm not saying it's feast or famine. They hate him, they love him. I'm just saying if you play basketball, you're going to like DeMar DeRozan a lot more than if you don't play basketball. Conversely, with the RJ effect, I think the fans are the people that will like RJ because he drives offense. He's, pushing the pace. He, puts up big numbers. And that tends to be it's just like a guard who picks up on the ball really hard, but gets killed backdoor and dies on screens. The fans are going to love the guy who just, Jerome Williams. Try to convince somebody that Jerome Williams wasn't a fantastic defender. He wasn't a fantastic defender. He wasn't. I don't know what to tell you. He's not a great defender at all. But people loved him. You could never tell anybody that Jerome Williams wasn't some defensive player of the year or some shit. I had a conversation with someone in 2003 that Jerome Williams versus Dennis Rodman. I was fucking about to lose my mind, right? But people don't get it. So there is a gap. And the gap is really just the bias. That's all it is. It's the bias.
RJ's not selling tickets, and like you could see some empty seats starting to like open up there. Like it is not a hot ticket, and I think of course, people will they're they're fixated on certain aspects, and like RJ's a hometown kid, and that's great. And it just sucks that it's like December and the season's been reduced to talking about RJ Barrett. God help me.
Here's a question. Here's a question for you guys. Name these players in terms of clutchness. I'm gonna give you these three names. Rank them in clutchness, from most clutch to least clutch. RJ, DeMar, Siakam.
Oh, come on. Fuck. I'm inclined to say DeMar's number 1, RJ's number 2, Pascal's number 3.
Whoa.
Bro, I swear to God, Pascal missed everything.
What are you watching this year?
Okay, this year notwithstanding. I'm counting only Raptors. Only as Raptors. Okay, Pascal is better this year. He's been pretty clutch this year.
Didn't RJ have some clutch games for New York? He must have had a few.
he had one really clutch game where he had 2 clutch games. One he hit a game-winning 3, and one was a game-tying dunk, ironically on Scottie Barnes. Those were his big clutch moments. And has he had a clutch moment with the Raptors? Lord knows he's taken a ton of shots in the clutch. He's had a ton of game-winning opportunities. What is his percentage in those game-winning opportunities? I'm willing to bet it's less than 20%, and that's pretty bad.
I don't think I've ever seen a Raptor player have as many opportunities to be clutch than RJ in these first 30 games. RJ right now could have been, if RJ was clutch, he'd be the clutch player of the year. How many opportunities he's had? It's insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He has. He's had a ton.
Bro, he's had at least 10. You know how many games we've been in?
Yeah, this comment. RJ is trying to win games for us, but he could do better passing out sometimes instead of trying to run through 3 guys. But running through 3 guys is his entire game.
It's worked.
That's literally what he does.
In the first 3 quarters.
So when it works, we say great RJ. When it doesn't work, we say selfish RJ. That's not really the point, though. The point is, great players don't usually have to score over 3 defenders, unless, of course, it's a 2 seconds situation. If you have 8 to 9 seconds and you end up having to take a shot over 3 defenders, you fucked up. That's basically it. You lack the game. In order to be a great player, and by great player, I mean actually great player like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Donovan Mitchell, of that ilk, Kevin Durant, you need to be a 3-level scorer. So in order for RJ to stop, pushing into 3 defenders, he needs to be able to hit the mid-range pull-up. But that's been completely taken out of his game because he's so inefficient at it. And he needs to have a floater package. But that's not really his game either.
He only has a floater package when RJ, he's a very opportunistic scorer. He only posts up when he has a clear size advantage. He only drives when there's gaps. He only shoots when he's wide open from 3. I mean, listen, you want Cooper Flag? You want the best odds at Cooper Flag? Have RJ run your offense in clutch situations. I guarantee you're getting him.
And even if he gets the call, he's not reliable enough to actually make his free throws. That's the other huge glaring issue.
Yes, he is a pretty poor free throw shooter as well. So that only exacerbates the problem and makes it even worse. So yeah, it's a compounding effect, of really just negative things. And then we haven't even talked about the defense. And for the most part, the defense has been atrocious. It hasn't just been bad, it's been atrocious. Now, the last 2 games has been a different story. I feel like the last 2 games, RJ is competing defensively. And hey, man, if you can get a competitive RJ defensively, does he have just about as many tools to be successful defensively as anybody else on this team, not named Scottie Barnes and Jonathan Mobo? Sure.
Okay. I have a question.
Sure.
From what you've seen of RJ, what's the gap defensively between RJ and when DeMar was a Raptor?
They're both pylons. I don't remember DeMar being good at all.
Neither do I. defensively.
RJ rebounds better than DeMar.
So who's a better defender?
Well, they would hide DeMar. He was never pointed. He was never
DeMar's
pointed
a slightly quicker athlete laterally. Slightly. They're both the same size. I think DeMar's a little bit bigger. So I think RJ's 6'5.5". DeMar is more like 6'6.5". I'm inclined to say DeMar is 6'6.5". The wingspan is roughly even. I would say they both have around a 6'9" wingspan. RJ's probably stronger at the same age. You know,
what about their passing ability at the same age? Like,
RJ's way ahead right now. DeMar is way ahead.
No. Let's compare RJ right now and DeMar's last year with us.
DeMar's last year with us.
Yes.
DeMar was 27 in his last year with the Raptors. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. I mean, let me
I don't think there's a big gap because I agree that DeMar's passing got significantly better after he left us.
You don't think there's a big gap? For sure? You don't think there's a big gap? I am inclined to say the numbers are going to say there's a huge gap. And I'm just going to look at it. Because, I mean, did DeMar make an All-NBA team?
I think we can all agree RJ's a better third option than DeMar would be.
Yes, because we're finding that out literally right now. Okay, so their numbers are pretty close, but the edge is going to go to DeMar in a lot of factors. Okay, so no, that's stupid. That's this year. Hang on. So let me just pull up DeMar DeRozan in. So what year?
DeMar's.
You want to just do you want to just do year 6 versus year 6?
Okay.
I think that would be fair. They're roughly the same age at the time. I don't feel like it's really fair to compare DeMar and then RJ on like.
Yeah, but DeMar also had a higher usage, so I don't know if that's fair to RJ, even though he's having high usage now.
So ironically, DeMar has lower usage. So this is them at the same age.
RJ's usage will go down when the team's healthy, if that ever happens this year. But
big if, but yeah. So, okay. So overall, this is not a good DeMar season at all. If you look at it per 100 possessions, DeMar shot worse from 3. He was much better at the line, but lower rebound rate, way lower assists, more steals, fewer blocks, fewer turnovers, but less load, less usage. If you look at the per 100 numbers, RJ's averaging 33. I'm going to round up 33, 10, and 8. And DeMar was averaging 30, 6, and 7. So RJ clears at the same age. And by the way, DeMar's actually a year older at the same age. However, if we adjust for the season that you want to talk about, which is more in, I think, 2017, 2018, that he was 28 there. That's his 9th season, right? Yeah. Now you're going to see DeMar be better. I'm positive. Yeah, now DeMar is way better. So there we go. So now you see the gap. The efficiency has gone up for DeMar DeRozan. The three-point shooting has caught up a little bit. You're seeing like per 100 possessions, DeMar scores more. Rebounds, still RJ Barrett by far. Assists, still RJ Barrett by far. Steals, still DeMar by far. That hasn't changed. What has changed is the impact metrics. We've gone from DeMar being negative 0.9 box plus minus to 2.8, positive 2.8. RJ has never sniffed positive 2 box plus minus ever. So again, that comes down to, in terms of true shooting percentage, is relatively even. DeMar's defensive box plus minus a little bit better. Win shares per 48 is like 3 times higher. So the impact metrics are telling you that they're not that far off. They're not that far off as players, I don't think.
But I like RJ more because he actually shoots threes, and I think he scores quicker. Like,
oh, for sure. Like look at that. Like RJ takes 8.2 3-point attempts per game. DeMar takes 5.2. If RJ can get that up to 10, and he can get that percentage back to where it was last year, I'm not saying necessarily 40%, but if he can get it up to like 36%, we are already 2/3 of the way there when we're talking about third options. I don't think people understand. I don't care that he's not a great defender. What I care is that he's not a great defender who's also not efficient, who's also turnover prone. That's a lot. See, because when you're turnover prone, how many times tonight did his turnover spark a fast break?
Yeah.
You know, so I think RJ is not only cheaper at the same age, he's not nearly as highly rated as a contract. So I think that's a big thing. I think, say what you will, I think he contributes more defensively. He's a better playmaker at the same age.
And he's not a ball stopper. At least not as much, not nearly as much.
He doesn't stop the ball as much. Yeah, I agree with that.
He has to be a better playmaker at the same age. He was a top recruit. That's the other thing that we keep forgetting. I mean, he played at Duke.
RJ?
And it's like, now that I looked at it, you showed it, I'm thinking it's a bit of an indictment on RJ. Like, he should be a lot better. I mean, you know, he was supposed to be a cornerstone piece for the Knicks. Like, that was their blue chip guy.
In fairness, they were both top five. They were both 5-star recruits. They were both McDonald's All-Americans. They were both highly, you know,
DeMar didn't play. DeMar didn't play at like at a top school though.
He decided to go to USC. That wasn't because he couldn't go to a top school. He wanted to stay home and go to USC with Lil Romeo Miller. His you know Lil Romeo. Okay, yeah. So that was a choice that he made. It's not like DeMar couldn't go to a blue blood. He definitely could have gone to a blue blood school. That's and he possibly should have. But, you know, his mom had lupus and he wanted to stay home.
There's an interesting comment from Ashir Khan that says, can we talk about Darko's lack of ability to develop players on the defensive end? I have a question for that guy. How many defensive players did the OKC Thunder coach develop?
Exactly. They draft defensive players. Cason Wallace didn't learn how to play defense in OKC. He came in as a stacked defender. Chad Holmgren was like the best shot blocker in the country for Gonzaga. You know what I mean? Like, next year, if you do, by the grace of God, luck out and get Cooper Flagg, you're not going to have to teach him how to play defense. He was born playing defense. Okay?
It's a personnel
Seriously,
issue.
that dude probably came out of the womb. The doctor was trying to cut the cord and he smacked the hand away right away. And that's when his mama knew that was going to be a basketball player.
I would be thrilled if we get one of those two kids from Rutgers.
Like, one of them, or a particular one of them?
No, one of them. I would be over the moon. Like,
which one?
Any of them.
But if
they're both good.
If you could choose, no choice.
I like them. No, I like them both.
Do you guys think, like, okay, I have a question. Between all the vets, Jakob, Bruce, Mitchell, Boucher, right? Olynyk. I think Olynyk is going to be here. Do you guys think those guys even play past February? Much minutes, if they're even on the roster?
I don't know, man. I want to see Ulrich play minutes at this point. I want to see Jacoby play minutes, and I want to lose games by a lot. This was winnable. This was a winnable game on your schedule. They literally rested Zach Lavine to make this winnable. They basically choked this game down the stretch. They lost Josh Giddey, who's basically their franchise initiator right now. If you're looking at how they're playing, they're running everything through him. Yep. Like, they see him as like a jumbo Steve Nash, and that's they want to build that, right? And numbers build value. Rehab, assets are built through numbers to some extent. Numbers and team success, some amalgamation of those two factors will lead to rehabilitation. Why is RJ Barrett not more highly regarded around the league? Part of it is efficiency, part of it is analytics, part of it is the Raptors are bad, right? But let's just say, for instance, that Scottie Barnes did play most of the season in your 500 team, and then he's doing this on a 500 team. He's certainly not the reason you're losing games. He's just not the reason you're winning them. So if you did have somebody to sort of floor raise that, make one swap. Rudy Gobert for Jakob Poeltl. Boom. Your defense goes up 10 spots. Now you're a 500 team. That one swap basically solves the RJ Barrett is not a good player. See, it's such a funny thing. It's so fickle, right? Because the truth is, regardless of how inefficiently or efficiently you want to do it, you know, people who say RJ Barrett's a really good player are right. He is a very good player because it is a actual difficult thing to drive this much offense in the NBA at all. Like, I would love to tell you there's 35 guys who can just do what RJ's doing, but I don't think there are 35 guys. It just happens that there's about 30 guys and they're all better at it than him. So it's like, you're kind of like oddly fit for that archetype. So yeah, if he starts hitting threes and he starts playing defense, now we're talking about a very different type of player. We're talking about a number 2 option. We're talking about a player who'd be more valued than Desmond Bane. Desmond Bane is having a year from hell right now. So like easily more valuable than him. And Desmond signed a max contract. So if that's the RJ you get, the defensively plugged in, shooting, continuing to play off the ball, continuing to play, you know, without the ball stopping, you're great. That's solid. But if you get more of this, give up 2 points, get 2 points, give up 2 points, get 2 points, give up 2 points, get 2 points, RJ, that's not moving me long term. Yeah.
I just think this season didn't have to go this way. And I know, like, you made the argument on the last live on the back of the on the loss to I can't even remember who we played last.
Mm-hmm.
And no, you're making of course now is the time to like sit and pray. Right. Like, yeah, now like the season's done. The season is over.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just a little bit remorseful, and maybe it's like, you know, sort of it's wasted breath, but I'm a little bit sort of like, you know, I'm rubbed the wrong way. Like, we didn't have to be this bad. And I know people are saying like, who gives a crap? We got to get, but again, it could go sideways 6 months from now, and it's a gamble. And I respect the hell out of you, Rob, like for this is the anti-gambling channel, as it should be, because it's like way too pervasive right now. But, you know, Plinkle ball is gambling. And I know Masai's not stupid. I know what Bobby's not stupid. They know that. I get it.
What ball?
I say Plinkle ball, like it's the lottery balls.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a whole like degenerate community on YouTube of people like sitting in front of their computer filming themselves watching Plinko balls. It's literally like an algorithm where like the ball goes down those slots, and you can hit like plus 500 or plus 10,000, and like make it's just that's what it feels like. Like I think you coined the phrase like I hate playing the lottery. Like I hate. You know what I mean? Like it's cheap. It's sort of like it's kind of it's a Hail Mary type of thing. It's a strategy, but it's not a strategy. You know what I mean? Like, but that's what we've been reduced to effectively. And I don't think there's going to be a do-over next year. I think like they got to hit this year, and because, you know, Rodgers is taking over, they're going to look at the gate numbers. And they're going to be like, you know what? Didn't make a lot of money on the team this year. So what's the rebuild next? Like, what are we looking forward towards? Like, what's your plan? You know, and if it doesn't go well, like the pressure's going to be on. And that's not. I don't want that, because I want everyone to stay. Ignorantly, like I want Masai to stay, and I want Bobby. I want everyone to stay and like keep building, because I can. You know, I'm a patient person, but I know that the environment is not that. You know, like it's
like at the end, if you have the number 1 pick in the 2024 draft versus having the number 1 pick in the 2025 draft, those assets are supposed to yield very different results. The Toronto Raptors walked in with the 19th pick and the 31st pick and walked out with 5 young players that I genuinely believe can be rotation, high rotation, or third string rotation on a contender at some point in their prime. That's how I feel about the 5 kids that they brought in this year. And that's roughly how I feel about Grady and Ochai And that's roughly how I feel about Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett. Those are 9 players under the age of 25 that have been added to this roster over the past 10 months, 11 months. You know what I mean? Like, it's genuinely insane how quickly they've done this. So forget firing Masai or whatever. If Rodgers does that, they're stupid as hell. He's done a great job. He did a really poor job for a little bit, got really sentimental, really, sort of passive. And suddenly it's like he just woke up and now he's cooking and he's cooking and he's doing a great job. I think he's doing a fantastic job. I think most importantly, as much as I value the high level skill of guys like Jakob Poeltl and Grady Dick and Jamison Battle, and as much as I do not believe that most of these players are on par with the upside and actual raw talent of players like Jalen Williams and Cason Wallace, it's not impossible to imagine them getting there. One, so there is some miraculous upside that we can bake in for. And number 2, they fit really well around your star player, Scottie Barnes. I think they all fit really well. There's no basketball, disruptive synergy between Scottie and Grady. It's a very obvious, seamless basketball fit. Any person who understands basketball can watch these two players and be like, I understand how this is supposed to work really well, right? There's a couple holdovers that I'm not really sure how they're supposed to work. There's a couple of concessions or salary dumps that maybe you took them on as rehab value. There's this assumption that, everyone likes everything that comes back to them in a trade. That's not necessarily true. Sometimes you take something that you don't really want to get something you wanted a little bit more. Right? Like I'm sure if the Raptors could rank out how much they value Jamal Shead right now versus Davion Mitchell versus that Portland pick, as well as Jamal Shead has played, that Portland pick is the most valuable asset they have of that heap. So
do you agree with me then that these guys need playoff reps as soon as possible?
No.
And that's not going to happen this year, but no.
Mm-mm. So it's interesting. I'm the anti-gambling person. I rail against it all the time. I say it's stupid. I say I don't do it, et cetera, et cetera. But the truth is that the gambling element of basketball sports betting is very different here because in the end, the NBA has incentivized losing heavily. And they have basically disincentivized winning as it pertains to asset accumulation, right? If you look at it from this perspective, if you really believe that there is a Cason Wallace or a Derek Lively level talent at the 14th or 15th overall pick, right? Which is almost close to where they were picked. They were picked 12th and 13th. Who's to say they couldn't have fallen to 15th? Or actually consider something even better, which is if you really have a crystal ball and Giannis Antetokounmpo or Kawhi Leonard is going to be sitting there at 15th overall pick. But the only cost of being the 15th overall pick is you don't get home court advantage in the playoffs. Jesus Christ. Go for the Kawhi Leonard and Giannis Antetokounmpo, bro. Like that is such a huge incentive, right? So, and when you start to scale the value of what a first overall, second overall, third overall pick is relative to a 9th overall, 10th overall, 11th overall pick, that's where I think you really, really start to see the value of the tanking, right? Now, it's one thing to directionlessly tank with no, culture being built, no habits being developed, no young players being developed. I think the Raptors are pulling off one of the best tanks ever. And as much as they're not getting playoff minutes, they're getting serious reps, man. Because they've constructed this roster in a way that is almost like you're getting these like for instance, like this comeback in the fourth quarter. I know it wasn't playoff defense, right? But you could argue there's a version of this game where you get a lot less than what you got in this game, right? Like in this game, you got how to mount a comeback. I know I'm grasping at straws for basically moral victories at this point, but I'm saying like you really pushed the envelope. You watched another team kind of crumble. You exploited it. You hit big shots. I don't think you go to sleep tonight being like, we really fucked this up. I think you go to sleep tonight and being like, this is a nice lesson in why you don't open up games the way we did. Let's clean that up next practice. You know what I mean? And then next game, you'll open up brilliantly in the first quarter, but then you'll have a disastrous second quarter. And then 2 days later, you know what? The Raptors right now, they remind me of, you ever seen a goldfish in a bowl? or not a bowl, in an aquarium, and it goes and it eats something and it realizes it just ate its own shit, and then it goes the other way, and then it comes back and then it eats it again, and then it spits it out, and then it goes again and it eats it again and realizes, and every single time it sees the piece of shit, it just keeps eating it and then realizing it's a piece of shit and spitting it out. But because it's a goldfish, it doesn't remember. The Raptors keep finding, the Raptors are the goldfish eating its own piece of shit right now, because effectively, you know, they just keep doing a different thing every night. And it's like, okay, tonight is going to be the turnovers. Then it's going to be the threes. Then it's going to be the defense. Then it's going to be the rebounding. Then it's going to be the turnovers again. Then it's going to be the super, super, super slow start in the first quarter. Then it's going to be a complete cataclysmic breakdown in the fourth quarter. And it's like every goddamn night, it's a new thing. But you take it and you're like, okay, if your goal at the end of the year is to have as few wins as possible while winning as many quarters as possible, the Raptors are executing the best tank ever. Because the Raptors have won more quarters this year than they've lost. Okay. And they are currently 7-20.
Here's the problem with the
tank. How do you do that?
Here's the problem.
Think about what I'm saying. They are 7-20 and they've won more quarters than they've lost.
Where is this tank if Scottie and IQ played 80% of the games?
I think you're a 500 team. Roughly 500.
So they're going to come back. I just don't see a world where they both miss 70 games. Okay?
They're gonna pull the plug in February.
Okay, so what does that mean? Because the only way you pull this plug is you got to glue Scottie to the bench to out-tank these teams.
They'll put them on a minute restriction, and they'll skip games.
How do you explain it to him? You know, again, once you're mathematically eliminated, that's another thing. See, everyone is looking at the East right now. And again, I broke it down in my last video. Philly looks bad. Chicago could get really bad. Like, I don't know what they're going to plan to trade Zach Lavine for, or if they trade him. He's been arguably a top 3 player for them this year easily, with Vooch and, I guess, Josh Giddey, who have their 3 best players been this year. And they're just kind of like shutting him down right now and just resting him because they want to keep him healthy for trades, you know? So it's like you look at teams like Chicago and you're like, man, could they punt the season? They almost never do. But what if they do, right? You look at a team like Philadelphia, all the injuries they have, they eked out a win today against Charlotte, barely, you know? And you're like, well, what if they pull the plug? How are you supposed to compete with that? Because they already have LaMelo signed up. He's already got his extension. They have no issues shutting him down for the season and just playing like the worst players you've ever seen. And unlike those teams, the Raptors do play hard. So when you take a team that maybe lacks talent, you know, like with Jamal Shead and Jakob Poeltl and James Bauer, you're like, oh my God, you're playing so many rookies. How are you ever supposed to win? Or how are you supposed to lose these games? It's like easy because the other team is Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma taking half-court threes. You know? Like, I watched the Washington Wizards the other day. It is a regrettable decision. No one should do that to themselves. It is one of the worst basketball teams I've ever seen in my life. It is egregious. It is the stupidest brand of basketball. Jonas Valanciunas, the commentator made me laugh so hard. You know what he says? Jonas takes a 3. He misses it so badly. Then he takes another 3, and then he basically airballs it. Then he takes another jumper. He misses it. It's just like, what is Jonas Valanciunas doing? And he's like, he's trying to get himself traded.
But isn't that the gist of it, though? Like, you have this sort of subtle, intentional tank, and it might not even work out that way.
What do you mean?
It might just work in reverse because, like, you're bad but not bad enough.
Well, in fairness, I think at some point, you know, like the Chicago game was a very important game on the schedule. I think we can agree that Chicago and Miami were winnable games in this stretch, and you get blown out by Miami. That's the game that you were talking about last game. You get beat the shit by Miami. Darko gives the team 2 days off. You come back and then you respond like this to Chicago, where your first half is just listless, just fucking wandering. And now, you get to go to the locker and be like, that thing that we found in the fourth quarter, let's bottle that up for next game. But what happens next game? Fucking goldfish, man. Just spinning around, eat your own shit again. It's the same fucking thing. Whereas like the next game, it's going to be like, all right, guys, we're honing in today. Great first quarter. We got to have a great first quarter. They come out, they beat Brooklyn 36-16 in the first quarter. I mean, quite frankly, it's going to be hard to out-tank Brooklyn right now. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Like, it's going to be hard to lose that game against Brooklyn. So you assume you win the game against Brooklyn. But guess what? You were supposed to win that game. That's a game that, when I looked at this schedule like 2 weeks ago, that was a game that I think I gave the Raptors like a 0.5 or 0.7 wins against. It was the Chicago that you were supposed to win. It was the Charlotte where you were supposed to win. Like, these games, like, they're not coming back, So yeah, at some point in April, you got Washington like 3 or 4 times. That is going to be hard to fucking, that is going to be hard.
I don't know, Rob.
You got Portland twice, right?
I don't believe in this ethical tank thing, man. And like, I agree with you on like most things. It's just, I know you didn't make this argument, but there is a cost. That there's no reality where there's not a cost. There's some cost. Everything has a cost.
What's the cost?
I can't even predict it. It could be like some bug in the dressing room, and some people get they get kind of not demoralized, but they start thinking about like, was this the right team that I joined, even as a young player? Like, I tried really hard yesterday and we didn't win, and why should I try hard again tomorrow? Like,
you're not established. But the reason why
I don't think that's happened at all. That didn't happen last year, and you had a fucking player betting on their own parlays. We didn't lose the culture. Look, here's the thing, and this is what I think is missing from how you're seeing this, and maybe how Will Lou is seeing this, and how some of those people are seeing this. Because I hear a lot of people bringing a lot of their own stuff into it, like their own upbringing, their own, workplace. They're using a different benchmark to understand the situation, right? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm okay. Go ahead.
So effectively, you're assuming that losing a series of basketball games, especially in humiliating fashion, like losing by 35, 40 points to the OKC Thunder, losing this game when you were really dog shit in the first half, losing particular games like Denver where you're up 6 and then you lose it in overtime. You would think that losing games like this is going to be a blow for morale. Am I correct?
Yeah, well, not like a blow, but it's these things kind of compound over time, right? Because the season's a long season. That's the other thing. Like, we're only in December. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So no, finish your point though.
Okay. So the assumption is that this is bad process, right? That losing by 40 is bad process.
It's not favorable. Put it that way. It's unfavorable. If that's even a word.
If you're looking at consequences, the consequences are as follows. Number one, as a losing team, your assets, specifically your player assets, become devalued.
Yeah.
Because they inexplicably become tied to the losing. It's impossible to talk about how good Scottie's playing without someone quickly saying, what's the Raptors record again? What's the Raptors record again? It's impossible to bring up RJ Barrett in most improved player conversations and people be like, empty calories on a bad team. Most people have that mentality. They can't separate anything from anything. So what people don't realize very often is that losing a lot of games is actually really bad for player contract value too. Kelly Oubre is a really great example of a player who had really bad contract value. PJ Washington is another player who had really bad value. You'll notice both these players played in Charlotte, right? Kelly Oubre averaged nearly 20 points per game in Charlotte. He ended up signing for a minimum contract because nobody thought that he could replicate that level of production on a decent team. However, he goes to the Sixers, and lo and behold, Kelly Oubre is actually a pretty good basketball player. PJ Washington was an afterthought. But if you watch him play, you're like, damn, this guy's a decent fucking player, right? there's a lot of decent players on really bad teams that are undervalued by the casual fan because they're tied to the losing. So if you're looking for like what is the tangible impact on, you know, losing this many games and having this record, yeah, one tangible impact is that if you go to the trade table, Kelly Olynyk is now the backup center on a terrible team. So it's a more difficult sell to tell a good team he can be a backup center for you and he can be an upgrade on the guy that you have, because we are losing our games not because of Kelly Olynyk, but because of Davion Mitchell. You know what I mean? It's hard to sell Davion Mitchell is the problem. You know, imagine you call in the Lakers and the Lakers are like, man, we really need point of attack defense. Our defense is fucking terrible. And you're like, you know what we have for you? Davion Mitchell. Give us a future first round pick. This X lottery pick can be yours. He's having a great season defensively. They just look at your they'll look at your defense, be like, he's on the 23rd, 24th defense. That's barely better than us. You know what I mean? But if the Raptors were a top 10 defense, then people would subconsciously fill in the gaps and they would assign value for that contribution. It would reflect in the analytics. It would reflect in his analytics, and the analytics would boost his trade value. So if that's like my long and short way of saying losing has a consequence, which is it hurts player value, it hurts player negotiation power and bargaining power, you know, because in the end, we lose and win as an organization, we lose together. What the Raptors are doing, which I think is really brilliant, is they have this way of losing that doesn't feel to me as bad as what losing usually feels like. I've watched a lot of really bad Raptor teams with zero process, zero development, zero thought. I remember watching the Process Sixers and you were just like, what is this rec league? It's an embarrassment to basketball. That's not what the Raptors feel like on most nights. The Raptors feel like a competitive basketball team that is just marginally short every night in a new way, which is what keeps it exciting. So I don't think that there's anything like that. I think every player is getting better. So if you look at it from that point of view, if you're a player on a bad team, you know that your value around the league is going down because you're associated with this bad team. That's what Fred VanVleet knew, right? Fred VanVleet knew that if his numbers sucked and his team sucked, his bargaining power going to Houston was zero. He knew that. So he knew that he needed two things to happen. Number one, the Raptors make the playoffs. Number two, his numbers to improve. And so he can get subconsciously credit for all of that around the league. And so that Houston can sell themselves and sell their fan base on, this is why we gave this guy max contract. Look at his numbers. He was an all-star, et cetera, et cetera. Fred understands the game, okay? And the game is value, and the game is sort of telling the story of value. So the way I see it is, right now, if I'm a player on this team, I'm looking at it like, y'all basically putting these bullshit lineups out there is basically making me a player on a really bad team. A lot of players would not accept this. Kelly Olynyk, Garrett Temple, Bruce Brown, guys like this, they have chosen to accept this. Now, if Bruce Brown were playing for you, he would be a part of this. Now, imagine if Bruce Brown's not playing for you and then Scottie plus Bruce Brown plus Emmanuel Quickley come back 2 days from now and they reel off 5 straight. Now, can you possibly go to the negotiation table and sell everyone on the value of Bruce Brown potentially? Look at us with Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown is the magic bullet. Bruce Brown is great. Look at his analytics. He's part of all these positive lineups. And now you can actually go to the trade table and actually try to trade him for something of value. I have a feeling the Raptors are not done with their, flirting with the tank stuff yet. I don't know if you follow Scottie Barnes on Instagram. He posted this clip, or he posted a picture of Emmanuel Quickley with like 2 eyes, like the suspicious eye emoji. And he also posted a picture of Bruce Brown. So they're trying to get healthy. So you know what I mean? Like maybe this Jakob Poeltl injury just completely kiboshes that and it won't matter. But for all intents and purposes, like this team has made it like publicly, they're trying to face it as we want to see what we are when healthy.
Yeah. I just tend to think that your original instinct preseason was right, that the team is actually better than most people were going to give them credit for.
Oh, they totally are.
And but then in the same breath, I could argue that they're actually underperforming, because I look at the combination of youth and the way that they're able to sort of like, use like the full squad, and we're not worse than Brooklyn. We're not worse than Brooklyn, but we're the second worst team or third worst team in the league right now. So now the optics have changed, and now we're going to say, oh, but it's a beautiful tank because they're in these sort of close games, but they just can't make the shot. They can't close it out, but it's okay because they're rebuilding. It's just like, okay, well,
the David Robinson Spurs, when they tanked for Tim Duncan, they were also a lot better than that team, right? That's fair. The Tampa Raptors. Do you remember Scottie Barnes on the Tampa Raptors? Sorry, the year before they got Scottie Barnes, the Tampa tank, right? They tanked. And what happened the very next year they got Scottie? 48 wins. Do you think Scottie was responsible for like 22 wins? Of course not. That's ridiculous, right? They went from, I think, 27 wins to 48 wins. That's a 21 game turnaround. Scottie was responsible for maybe 3 or 4 of those wins. The vast majority of it was just health and not playing in Tampa and all that stuff, and just not deliberately tanking games. Last year, the Toronto Raptors deliberately made themselves worse at the end of the year. I think they finished the year 3-19. So they shut Scottie down. Scottie could have come back 7 games to go in the season. He would have come back. If they were in the playoffs or the play-in, he would have come back. But it was just pointless. They were just like, hey, sit back, rest. We're trying to lose games at this point, There's no point in so where I'm seeing it as, if you do add a top 5 pick to a team that didn't deserve a top 5 pick, either by virtue of you got lucky with the draft, which is Atlanta Hawks last year, right? They finished with the 9th worst record. They got the first overall pick. That's luck. But what if you make your own luck in this situation, which is to say you artificially deflate your record because there's a whole bunch of teams trying to sell themselves on the play-in, right? You deflate your record and you're just like, you're a 40-win team, right? Because the underlying value remains. Like I guess what I'm trying to say is there's a version of this which is backwards, where you play the vets, you get wins because of vets, your youth doesn't develop, it doesn't get better, and then next year you're like a slightly worse version of what you tried to be this year. Right?
No, that would be worse. That would be worst case scenario. That'd be Armageddon. I know exactly what you're talking about.
That's Fred VanVleet, Nick Nurse.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You play your starters into the ground. You try to win every game at whatever cost. You beat the worst teams in the league. You lose to all the good teams, and you eke into the play-in, and then you lose. Right. So that's the worst case scenario. But you know who didn't get better that year? Delano Banton, Malachi Flynn, Precious Achiuwa. These are the guys who didn't develop. Scottie Barnes didn't get that much better that year. He actually regressed majorly. So that's where I'm saying, like, what if there's like what if this team trying its absolute best, right, was like a 41-win team? Let's assume that that's just a nice even number, 41-41. And 41-41 is easily like playing for the Eastern Conference. It might even be playoffs. Okay. But let's just say you can drop 10 of those wins or 12 to 15 of those wins because of deliberate lineup manipulation, which is to say you don't play the veterans, you don't play optimal lineups, you do have a constant 4 of 5, you do have this one kind of mole, you know what I mean, like a consistent handicap, like a Davion Mitchell, where you can just put him out there, or like a Chris Boucher who's just going to consistently disrupt your offense. So you have that sort of thing where you just, by virtue of trying to develop young players, you're going to take 12 wins off. And let's say you can take another 6-7 wins off by injuries. 6, 7, 8 wins. Okay, so now you're a 41-win team that actually underperforms by 18 to 20 wins. But here's the good part. Because of the development stress, you actually throughout the year didn't stay a 41-win team. By the end of the season, you were actually more like a 44-win team, right? Because of the development, the increase. Yeah. And then next year, you add this lottery pick who's ideally, somewhat of a contributor. Maybe it's not Scottie Barnes level, but maybe it's something close to that. And you stack on 4 more wins, and you get 1 more, maybe veteran, and you play this optimal lineups. With some luck, you could be a 54-win team. Next year, Darko Rajakovic, Coach of the Year, book it. book it. Because the turnaround and how much credit he's going to get for it is going to be crazy. If they tank properly this year, he's winning coach of the year next year. But he's not winning coach of the year because he suddenly turns into a great coach. He's going to win coach of the year because the focus of the organization will shift away from playing 4-on-5. And suddenly, have you noticed how many times RJ will hit a shot and go right to the bench? Have you noticed that? He will play terribly for 4 minutes, have 2 good minutes, and Darko's like, in goes Grady. Like, I'm telling you, they're losing games on purpose. I've watched this happen before. Like, they're not trying to win games at all. Like, it's almost like, it's not like they're trying to lose, but they're not trying to win. And if you go into an NBA game trying not to win, you're kind of like losing by default. You know, so you can puff your chest and you can do all the theatrics and you can yell and you can scream and you can call a timeout when things are not being executed right. But it's like in the confines of what system you're running and the lineups you're running, I understand that there's a benchmark of execution where you can still say, okay, I know this lineup lacks spacing, but I can't have you jogging back on defense. But at the same time, players are not dumb. And at some point, like, there will be a morale decrease temporarily as there's an existential question of, hey, am I going to be on this team next week? The trade deadline will do that. Every team that's a losing team has that wandering eye of like, am I going to be on this team next week? And that has an impact on everyone's mood. I wouldn't be surprised if you lose to Brooklyn. I'll guarantee you, like I wouldn't be surprised if the wheels just fall off for like a couple of weeks. But then, you know, you get through the trade deadline, you start building up the morale. And I guess what I'm trying to say in a very roundabout way is there's different ways to measure winning and losing if you're a player. And while you can be upset that you're not on a team that's going to the playoffs, you can be upset that you're not on a team that's winning. You can be upset from the agent perspective that, hey, like, we're not going to get a ton of endorsements this summer because I'm on this 22-win team. You can also kind of look at it the glass half full, which is I'm with this coaching staff that's giving me opportunity when I don't necessarily deserve it at the NBA level. As Fred VanVleet would say, unearned opportunities, right? Name another team that Jamal Shead is closing fourth quarter and taking the final shot. Name one team. So this is a partnership with the players, right? Darko Rajakovic can look at this and say, listen, we are going to do some really funky shit this year. I'll promise you right now, you're going to be a better player and you're going to play a lot. Are you cool with this? Cool? Yeah, good. You know, RJ Barrett playing point guard, is that optimal? Probably not. Hell no. There's no way you are playing RJ Barrett right now for any reason other than development. This is the only reason. He's never played point guard at any level that I can remember watching RJ. And I've watched RJ for a long time. This is not a natural point guard. It's not a position you can just pick up. It's not like Scottie Barnes where it's like, okay, he has like 9 years of point guard experience beyond the NBA level. And it's like, it's going to be an adjustment. This is a completely different thing. There's so many things he does that are un-point guard like in the moment. So I guess what I'm saying is like, you look at it from the RJ perspective and you say, it's not that dissimilar from what the Spurs did with Jeremy Sohan last year. They put the ball in his hands. Everyone complained. It was the ultimate fuck you to the league because the league was trying to sell League Pass. If you remember, with Victor Wembanyama was the face of League Pass and everything they were doing to like, go watch this 7'5" freak play basketball. And then people tune in and there's like fucking Jeremy Sohan shooting underhanded free throws as the point guard. And they're just like, motherfucker, this is why the league's, you know, revenue is going down. But I don't think RJ's as unnatural fit at point guard, but are you seeing how much better Jeremy Sohan is this year because of all those decisions he had to make last year?
No, look, Rob, I think you painted the most optimistic scenario that we're all on board for next year. Like, you're right. Like, if things go the right way with the development and the pick, and then suddenly you might be like a 49-50 win team, and that's not unrealistic. I think everyone's on board for that. I'm just maybe just complaining for no reason, or I'm just sort of old enough to remember the talent that we wasted. And I look at Scottie, and he is, for me, as a guy who's 40 years old, like, who's followed the team from day one, like, he is one of the most talented recruits that we've had since like Tracy McGrady. That's how I think of this guy. People can call him nuts, but like, I think he's that player.
Right.
And I look at Jason Tatum, and he's 26 years old, and he's an NBA champion. And okay, completely different thing. You know, he got onto an already really good team, but Jason Tatum and Brown, all those playoff failures going back like 5 years, he needed every ounce of every playoff game for every failure that he endured to become a champion. And that's what I want for Scottie. So it's like, okay, fine, fuck playoff basketball this year, cool, but next year, like, like we can't throw this opportunity away, you know. And by the way, I'll sign off on that because my phone's about to die. But thanks for having me on, eh?
Yeah, my pleasure, and good luck. You said you were in a storm, so good luck with that.
No, it's died down now, but now I gotta get going.
Okay, cool, man.
Cheers.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Cheers.
Interesting. Thoughts?
We've seen this team without Scottie. We've seen this team without IQ. We've seen this team without RJ. We've seen this team without Jacoby. We've seen this team without Grady. I'm looking forward to seeing what this team looks like without Jakob. Now,
we've already seen this team without Jakob against.
Yeah, but it's against
OKC.
It's against OKC. But again, I'm not sure I want to see this team without Jakob and Scottie.
Yeah, because last year everyone says this is the Raptors record without Jakob Poeltl. It's like, there was somebody else missing from the lineup there too, and he's pretty good. He's a pretty good basketball player. Yeah. I'm not sure.
No Scottie, no Jakob. It could get ugly. It could get very, very ugly. I think those are the two players you can have missing at the same time. Like, if you were to say two guys missing to do the most damage, to help the tank the most, right? Let's say the entire roster is healthy. Take two guys off that will crater this team. What are the two?
Two guys to crater the entire team?
Yep. Team tank. Let's say you're the tank CEO. Which two guys are you removing from the roster?
Quickly Barnes.
Okay.
Or wait. The only reason I say quickly is because no quickly means Shead and Mitchell minutes. And those are usually losing minutes. Right? Or it means RJ at point guard, which is unnatural. And if I have Scottie out as well, that means there's a lack of playmaking talent. I don't think the Bulls played well today at all. I really don't. I don't think they played well at all. They won in spite of themselves. They won basically trying to lose this game. So I'm not saying they were tanking or anything. I'm just saying, like, they did not play well enough for me to be moved and be like, oh, they really earned this win. They barely did. But they won. And oh, how clutch it is that they won. Because this could have been tough. In terms of like where you're going with Brooklyn, right? Like, again, we haven't faced Brooklyn this year. And they're tearing it down, which means we're going to have 3 or 4 games against them, and they're going to be tearing it down. Those were 4 losses, or at least a 3-loss record that I was expecting, where Cameron Johnson and Dennis Schroeder being like, I am the leader, and beating the shit out of the Raptors and being like, see, this is what happens when you don't, start me. And now he's gone. Now I got to wait for his fucking revenge tour in the Golden State game.
As bad as we've been, we're on a 5-game losing streak. Okay. We are 4 games out of the play-in.
I know. Please don't remind me. I know that. I know it's so bad.
No. Rob, I truly believe if Scottie and IQ come back and Brooks joins them, I just don't see how we don't get wins. I just don't see a world where, unless it's an overt tank, this has to go from an ethical tank to an unethical tank for it to continue.
I have 2 words for you. Bruno Fernando. That is the tank secret. The tank secret will be Bruno Fernando. Three-pointers from Bruno Fernando from half court. Do you know that yesterday I was trying to lose games on purpose, right? With the NBA 2K. Do you know what my solution was? I play Simcast. You play 2K?
Not anymore.
But when's the last one you played?
Maybe like 3 years ago.
Okay, so you're familiar with, I don't know. There's this thing with my GM mode where you can Simcast. You know,
yeah, you can join the game mid-game,
and exactly. So I would simulcast or simcast it up until like the fourth quarter, and I'd see if the Raptors were close. And if they were winning by 3 or 4, you know what I would do? I would jump in and start taking threes with fucking Davion Mitchell from half court. I tanked bro's 3-point shooting percentage, bro. It went from 22%. By the time I was done my simcast, he was like a 17% from 3. So that's what I did. And, you know, it's never going to be that egregious in an NBA game. But, you know, just random brain farts, turnovers, refusing to rotate, refusing to guard, refusing to communicate a switch, refusing to get back on defense. You know, the beautiful thing is everyone's honed in on the offensive end. The tank has to happen on the defensive end. Because it's hard. You know, like what are you supposed to tell players? Hey, I want you to shoot jumpers and try to miss them all. Like, how the fuck do you do that? That's hard. You know, it's much easier to just implement a defensive scheme where you're like, we're going to go under the screen on Tyler Hero every time and see if that hurts us. And it's like, of course it's going to hurt you. He's going to kill you, you know, but that's the genius of the defensive tank, because the average fan is so dumb and they don't notice that. They're just like, oh, Tyler Hero cooking. It's like the defender went on under the screen 4 times in a row. Like, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? There's just these random acts of kindness defensively. You know, Kelly Olynyk just not rotating. Seeing Chris Boucher getting whooped by 3 feet. Did you see that play? How fucking obvious was it? Like, anyone and their mother could see that Taylor Horton Tucker had beat Chris Boucher and was about to fucking dunk it, yam it, you know, have a reverse layup. And Kelly Olynyk's like, oh, that's nice. That's nice happening over there. That's cool. You know, good for Taylor Horton Tucker. Good for Chris. You know,
I don't know.
Not my problem though. It's not my problem. I'm a fucking 7-footer standing 6 feet out of outside the paint, guarding absolutely no one. But I'm not going to rotate. It's not my job. I'm not a shot blocker. You see these arms? T-Rex arms. I don't block shots. Bro, Kelly Olynyk can block a shot. Okay? Like he can block a Taylor Horton Tucker shot. He can do something. He's just not doing it. These vets are like fucking these vets. Maybe the vets are in on it. Maybe this is the Da Vinci Code. You know? Maybe it's like the Da Vinci Code. Maybe it's like a massive conspiracy. And like Garrett Temple and like every day Garrett Temple and Darko Rajakovic and Kelly Olynyk, they meet up and it's like the order of the tank. You know, and there's like this giant picture of Cooper Flag in the background as they're all just like, what are we gonna do today? It's like what we do every day. We're gonna try to destroy this fucking team.
You just dropped Scottie in this. It's like we're winning, bro. We're winning. Scottie by himself is beating these bottom feeders, and they're coming. Those games are coming, and they're coming in bunches.
But there's so many hard teams too, yo. Like I feel like I have never flashed the schedule more times in my life in a season. You followed me for a while. I never flashed the schedule. But this year, I flashed the schedule every day, 2 times, 10 times on a Sunday. Okay? Because it's so important for people to realize how fucking ass is crazy the schedule. Okay? To reiterate, you have Brooklyn, December 19th, Houston, which is as guaranteed a loss as I can guarantee you're going to lose to Houston. Alperen Sengun is going to, you know, like he could probably fucking score 35 points with one arm in that game. If his defense is Kelly Olynyk and Jonathan Mobo, that dude is going to beast, okay? No disrespect to J-Mo. Fantastic player. He is too small to guard Alperen Sengun, okay? So you just don't have the matchup. You can fucking play Bruno Fernando, but then there you go, playing 4-on-5. Enter Davion Mitchell. Now you're playing 3-on-5 against the best defense in the NBA, or one of the best defenses. So that is a certified loss. So that is one more loss. I'll guarantee you that Houston game's a loss, unless Fred VanVleet literally shoots like 1 for 38 or something like that. New York, probably a loss. Memphis, probably a loss. I watched Memphis lose yesterday to the Lakers. They look like a mess, but they're not too much. They're not this much of a mess. They're going to lose. Atlanta, Boston. Bro, you're going 1-1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going 1-5 over the next 6 in most scenarios. The likely outcome is you're going either 0-6 or 1-5. So does it matter that much what you've got coming up in April? I don't think so. Because, by the way, after that Boston game, you got Brooklyn. That's the easy game. But then you got Orlando, Milwaukee, New York, Cleveland. So over that stretch, over the next 3 weeks, you might win 2 games, and they're both coming against Brooklyn. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you could sell yourself on like, yeah, maybe we eke one out against Memphis. Maybe we eke one out against Atlanta. Bro, you can't just eke one out and, like, you need to go on a run. You're so far behind the 8 ball. 7-20. 7-20. You're 13 games under 500. I know you're looking at the play-in schedule, but dude, if you look at strength of schedule right now for Tankathon, almost all those teams ahead of us have an easier schedule than us. Almost all of them. The Raptors have the 7th easiest schedule from here on out. 7th easiest. Okay? But teams like, hold on, I gotta pull up the fucking tweet because I don't remember it off the top of my head. But as I remember it, most of the teams that are directly ahead of us have a slightly easier schedule than us. So it's like, shit, it's tough. So yeah, like you can say like we're supposed to win these games, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so here's a preview of the next 25 games. 19 games against the East. Okay. 6 games against the West, 10 games on the road, 15 games at home. Okay. According to Tankathon, they have the 7th easiest schedule for the remainder of the season. And the issue for the Raptors is Chicago, Boston, Brooklyn, Charlotte, Orlando, and Milwaukee all have easier schedules. Right? So I'm assuming that Charlotte's given up on the season. I'm assuming Washington's given up on the season. I'm assuming Brooklyn's given up on the season. These are the 3 teams where I'm like, every time you face them, it's going to be a win. But other than those teams, Portland is going to try to eke out 1 or 2 wins every now and again, right? Utah is probably a loss every single time, but you don't face them that often. So here's the thing. So as it stands, the Raptors are 7-20. Brooklyn, Philly, Washington, Charlotte, and Chicago all try to nose dive to the bottom. It's probably going to be hard to beat them. But add 2 games against Utah. You have 15 games against these following next 5 teams. Brooklyn, Philly, Washington, Charlotte, and Chicago. 15 games against those teams. We just lost one of those games, in fairness. So now we have 14 games against those 5 teams left. You add 2 games against Utah, 2 games against Portland, 1 game against New Orleans. That's basically 19 games where you'll be favored to win. And by the way, today, Vegas slightly, at least yesterday, favored the Raptors to win this game. So I'm not capping when I say Vegas was like pretty much dead even on this game. So yeah, man, I think like you can solidly be like a 25 win team. Like, do you realize in order to be a 25 win team, you need to rack up 19 more wins somewhere? Wait, that's bad math. Hold on. 7 wins. So you need to rack up 18 wins somewhere. 18 wins.
We'd have to, yeah.
I mean, 7 right now.
That way, it's kind of daunting.
It is super daunting. Now, I know at the end of the season, there's going to be meaningless wins that are going to be had. But at that point, the Raptors will have pulled the plug already, right? Like, you're not going to tell me that the Raptors at 12-32 are going to be like, yeah, let's go for the play-in. At that point, everyone knows, right? That's what I've been trying to tell people literally for the last 3 months, is the schedule gods did us the hugest favor ever. And the injury gods are pretty much extending that favor. Because despite the schedule, I think the Raptors were too good to tank. That was my view. Yes, there's all this youth, but RJ and Scottie and Emmanuel Quickley and Grady Dick and Jakob Poeltl is too good a team to be worse than the fucking Hornets and the Nets. And So I agree with the previous caller that we would be, if healthy, better than those teams, right? But it's like now, because we're further behind and we're injured, it's kind of evened out the playing field. So now it's like we're on the same pace as the Nets right now, as long as Scottie and Jakob stay out and Emmanuel quickly stays out. If Scottie comes back, then we're on the same pace as the Pacers, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think we're like a 4,600, 4,400 team with Scottie, not a 500 team. So like just barely a below 500 team. But if you lose against Brooklyn, like now you've lost 2 of the 19 games you had to win. You know what I mean? At this point, you don't have the luxury to have stinkers. Like the Raptors had a stinker tonight. And it's like, at some point, Masai Ujiri is a human being. And I've noticed this about him, that every year he makes this decision on whether or not he wants to support the team or whether he wants to destroy the team. He always does this, where like, okay, the Raptors are doing well. Oh, let's go get, let's go trade for Thaddeus Young. Oh, the Raptors are doing really, really poorly, but they're turning it around the last 5 games. Let's go fucking get Jakob Poeltl, right? That's what he does. He observes, he waits, and then he, rewards the faith or doesn't. After seeing how they played today, I would be surprised if he didn't say like, fuck it, pull it. Our veterans are fucking tanking. Our youth doesn't play defense. Like this is terrible basketball. We've already sustained so many injuries. Fuck it. What's the point?
But is all the young guys plus Scottie and IQ and RJ, is that pulling it?
What do you mean?
Okay, let's say you just remove Jakob, Boucher,
So you play
Kelly.
Nuno center.
I mean, you play Bruno. I mean, is that really pulling it?
Describe pulling it. What do you mean?
We're only where we are because of injuries. This isn't planned.
Okay. See, that's where I think we disagree. I don't think we're only where we are because of injuries. I think we're where we are because of crazy lineups. I think we're where we are because of, a clear number of defensive liabilities. I think we're at where we're at because of youth and inexperience. I think we're at where.
Rob, what's the number one reason?
Defense, man. Our defense is bullshit. You have no rim protector to speak of. If Scottie's not on the court, it's an open paint.
There it is. If we had Scottie playing a normal Scottie season in terms of games played, we're not talking about, oh my God, this is the opportunity of a lifetime.
If Scottie plays, okay, and I think I get what you're saying. If Scottie had played every single game this year, instead of 7 wins, where are the Raptors right now? So instead of 7-20, so 27 games in, 7-20, where are they? I don't know, 11?
Which
11
is a
wins?
huge difference.
Okay, it's still a bad team. It's still significantly below 500. Now, if Scottie and IQ play, maybe you're a 12-win team. Okay, now you're a 12-win team, 12-15, and you've had the toughest part of your schedule. And now the schedule gets easier. Okay, fine. It's a huge difference. Huge difference, right? I get that. Being 12-15 optically is a massive difference from being, 7-20. It's a big difference. The percentage is a huge difference. These 5 wins make such a huge difference when we're talking about a 27-game sample. 5 extra wins? Holy shit. That moves the needle so much. That adjusts your pace by almost 20 victories. 18 victories, I would assume. That's huge. But in the end, you're not 500 when Scottie plays. You have lost big time with Scottie on the court. Scottie played that OKC game and you lost by like 40, right? He is not single-handedly driving. He's not LeBron, where it's just like, oh, you got Scottie Barnes. You're a 45, 48 win team, 58, 52 win team.
Yeah, we don't need him to be LeBron.
Sure.
But I agree that because of the injuries, mainly, the number one reason is the injuries, we have an opportunity, and I agree we need to capitalize it. The problem is if Scottie and IQ play, let's say 50 games each, I just don't see how we're top 4, top 5, bottom odds. I just don't see how. These teams are that bad.
No, I know. And I think what it's going to probably come down to is you're probably going to be 7th. And you're going to pray, just like you did when you jumped from 7th to 4th with Scottie, that, maybe it happens again. I don't know how the Raptors can be bad enough to be like bottom 3. I really don't. But if they are bottom 3, kudos to somebody, bro. Kudos to this coaching staff. Kudos to Davion Mitchell. Kudos to, all these people, who are making this tank dream possible, right? Now, I said before the season, I'm never going to root against the victory. But can I be a little bit happy about the loss? Sure. I think I can. I think what I wanted to say was I'm never going to be the asshole who comes out after the team wins and be like, why did you win that? It was so close. But I think I know where I'm at right now. I know 100% where I'm at. Nothing you're going to do this season short of becoming the We the North Raptors is worth this, worth losing this, And I just think there's a lot of talent at the top of this draft. Top 5 picks are really decent. I'm inclined to say the 2026 draft is even better. So I don't know. Just need to get more talented, man. Because in the end, you're going to be facing these teams that are going to come up behind you, like the, Orlando Magic. What are we really facing right now? When we face Orlando, what are we facing? We're facing a team that had draft picks when we didn't have draft picks, right? I don't think we had a draft pick in the year they picked Paolo. That's a young asset they added because they were terrible. And we were contending. And we were still trying to make the playoffs. And we were a good team. So now you're dealing with the ramifications of that, right? The Cleveland Cavaliers tore it down properly after LeBron James got traded or left in free agency to, they didn't just keep being like, oh, we're going to prove it to him. We're going to be a play-in team every year. No, they bottomed out. They got Evan Mobley. They traded draft picks. They made a very intelligent decision to get the Donovan Mitchell. And, they eventually did hit on Jared Allen. That trade is a criminal insanity by the Brooklyn Nets. Just right place, right time. Ooh, Jared Allen. Boom. All-star center. Right? For nothing. Look at what the Cavaliers paid for Jared Allen. Look at what we paid for Jakob Poeltl. There's the fucking crime of the century right there. So I guess what I'm saying is, if you look at it from the perspective of what are we really missing and how can we find it, it's easy to just say top 5 pick solves a lot of problems. Not in terms of contention, but in terms of your asset base. If you believe in Grady, IQ, Ochai, you believe in these guys, you believe in their development, adding like a Kaman Maluach to this just makes it unfair. Now you're up there with some of the better young cores in the league. Maybe you don't have the Victor Wembanyama type, like glitzy number 1 guy, but I think Scottie can get something close to that someday. So I don't know. I just think, maybe I'm playing 2K too much. I keep tanking in 2K.
I was on the fence about the tank, but I think it's been decided for us. This is an opportunity of a lifetime. I think for us to be top 4, for us to have the best odds, it's going to have to go from stealth to overt. I just truly believe that. We're not Washington. It's just not going to happen. We're not going to walk to a top 3 pick or odds. We're not doing that. It's not happening.
Well, there's no incentive to rush Jakob Poeltl back, and there's nothing behind him right now. So, I think it's going to help you massively. He controls the glass. He may not be a great defender right now, but he's still doing a lot of really, really positive things for the Raptors. And if he's not on the court, like, I'll make it clear, like, you're gonna lose a lot more games because he's not on the court. So you add in what you're already missing. If he's gonna miss even 2-3 weeks, like, that's tough, man. Like, this, how many times is the season gonna end on that same goddamn move, the split? Pascal Siakam, first time, now this. Yeah. I don't know. Anyways, man, any final thoughts?
That fourth quarter was amazing. Just letting the kids play. If we're gonna watch at this point, if we're gonna lose games, I want to see the kids play. That's it. I don't care to watch Kelly Olynyk or Chris Boucher or Davion Mitchell. I don't care to watch them play.
Well, unfortunately, you're gonna watch them play a lot over the next few weeks.
And anybody, this idea that we're rehabbing value, bro. There's no value to rehab. You're not getting nothing for Boucher. You're getting nothing for Mitchell. And if you try to trade Kelly, you're getting nothing. Okay. Bruce is getting you a second. One. Okay. You might get 2 seconds for Jakob Poeltl. It's all a dream. It's all a dream.
I don't know. I remain hopeful that you can get at least a pick or a first round pick for Jakob Poeltl if you did move off of him. Clearly, because you gave up a fucking lottery pick to get him. But he was paid less when we did it. So I think that is factoring into it. If Jakob Poeltl was on a $9 million contract right now, yeah, you can get a first round pick for him.
Yeah.
Because he's on a $20 million contract or 19.5, that's where it kind of becomes more complicated.
And the player option.
And the player option. Of course. The Masai Ujiri special. Anyways, man. All right. I'll talk to you later. Have a good one. Nice conversation. Peace. Also, great movie. He Got Game. Shout outs to Coach Mo for bringing that one up. Denzel, Ray Allen. To those of you who hadn't watched, here's some of my favorite basketball movies. I like Coach Carter. I like He Got Game. I really like Sunset. It's called Sunset Park. And probably my favorite is not Space Jam. It's not Hoosiers. It's Above the Rim. Anyone seen Above the Rim with Tupac? It's a really good movie. I like Eddie as well with Whoopi Goldberg. I like Eddie. That was really cool. Rick Fox is in that. Those are some good basketball movies in case you feel like entertaining yourself at nearly 1 a.m. I need to go to sleep because I'm going to be on the panel tomorrow. Thank you all for, the nearly 300 of you who stayed up with us right now. It's very cool. Death 4K. Scottie still has to prove he can be a franchise player just like SGA and a couple of years ago. As of right now, it's tied with Scottie and RJ. RJ shows more promise in some aspects. Ooh. Oh boy. No, he doesn't. And no, it's not. It's not tied at all. There's not a GM in the world that thinks it's tied. It's not that close. I promise you it's not. Okay? It's not close. I'm not being a hater when I say this, but it is literally like trying to compare. The gap between Scottie and RJ is the same gap between Zach Lavine and Michael Jordan. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's 30 points. It's 30 points, but it's not close. It's a really, really, really big gap, man. Like, it's an enormous gap in talent. It's an enormous gap. No. You can love him. I don't think you understand him if you're saying this, though. Either that or you're seeing something in RJ Barrett that I am not seeing. There's no conversation between these two players. Puts way more pressure on the rim. Have you looked at RJ's rim percentages? Have you looked at it? It's the gates of hell, man. Look at his shot chart. Next time you get a chance, just take a look. Is he league average at converting near the basket? Just because a guy goes to the basket, puts his head down 10 times, 15 times a game, it doesn't mean he's good at it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, you can argue he's the best on your team at it. You can argue he's better than Scottie at it. Congratulations. He's better at one thing. Scottie's not a bad driver either. That's part of it too. Yeah. It's just, you know what I mean? Like maybe it will take some time, for people to sort of see the gap. Like, I remember there was a time when people were trying to compare Jordan Poole to Klay Thompson, right? And you could argue Jordan Poole that year was very well on his way to becoming a much better player. Like, there was a time when people were trying to compare Ja Morant to, D'Angelo Russell. Like, these are actual conversations we've had in NBA history. And it's crazy when it happens. You know, there's probably some nut out there on the internet who's like, hey, what's the gap between Domantas Sabonis and Nikola Jokic? You know what I mean? It's a huge gap. It's an oceans wide gap. But on some nights, they look really similar. RJ goes hard in the paint. Cool. It doesn't mean that he converts when he gets there. It doesn't mean that he converts when he gets to the line. It doesn't mean that he's an excellent playmaker out of those situations. He does the Pascal Siakam special where he drives into the paint, it's congested, and then he makes up his mind. I'm not saying he can't get better. He's 24 years old. We flashed the numbers. He's ahead of DeMar DeRozan at the same age. But bro, understand me. One person is ahead of DeMar DeRozan at the same age. The other person is ahead of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at the same age. There's a gap between Shai and DeMar. If I showed you Scottie's numbers versus Shai's numbers and in their fourth year, in fact, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it just for y'all. I'm gonna do it because I'm sick and tired, bro. Like I really am. Like people really don't understand how good he is, and then I sound like an absolute fucking asshole trying to tell people that he's one of like the 20 best players in the league. But he really is much better than you think. Okay, now flash this on, and this is gonna be the last thing I do. I'm going to catch y'all later after this. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a little stat head comparison. Lord knows some people are going to hate me for this, but I don't really fucking care. Okay? So I'm going to ask you to pick a player, any player, and I'm going to compare their fourth year to Scottie Barnes, and you get to see, you know, you don't even have to super chat for it. Okay? Just pick a player, any player, and we're going to pick their fourth year. And we're going to compare Scottie to that player's fourth year. And Lord help you, if you pick RJ Barrett, you are really going to get cooked. Okay? So this is Scottie versus Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, fourth year. Okay? There's your fucking player picture. Okay? It's really not that fucking big a gap. Look at the per 100 possessions. The gap is 30 versus 34, basically. If we're rounding, it's 30 points versus 34 points. Shai took way more shots, so it's really that. 2-point percentage, Scottie's ahead. 3-point percentage, Scottie's ahead. Free throw percentage, Shai's ahead. Rebounds, Scottie clears. Assists, Scottie clears. Shai's a fucking point guard, and Scottie's clearing that. Advanced stats, Scottie's ahead in box plus minus. Scottie's almost on par in win shares per 48. You know, he's catching up in terms of usage. He's a higher turnover percentage, but also higher assist percentage. I don't remember, what was Shai in year 4? Was he playing with, was that the year that he played with, was that the year he played with Chris Paul? I have a feeling he played with better players. Anyways, okay. The next player was Scottie Pippen. Okay, cool. And we'll do you know what? Let's just Scottie Pippen year 4. In fairness, Scottie was much older in year 4 because he was a little bit older coming out of Arkansas. So you're seeing now a 23-year-old Scottie Barnes versus a 25-year-old Scottie Pippen. And as you can see, there's some gaps. And mainly the gap is defensively. Scottie Pippen was way better. But Pippen was a point forward, right? Scottie averages more points, more rebounds, more assists per 100 possessions. So this is pace adjusted, right? The box plus minus, Scottie has a higher offensive box plus minus, but Pippen was a godly defender at 25. It really was a very different equation. And also, Scottie Pippen was on one of the greatest teams of all time in the 90-91 Chicago Bulls. So let's not compare context. Right now, strictly as talents, true shooting percentage is dead even almost. Scottie's on par with prime Scottie Pippen at the same age and younger. He's doing this at 23. Pippen was 25. You want to look at the numbers when Pippen was 23? Because that's going to be a very different equation. Hang on. Pippen was 23 in his second year, right? So now we look at the numbers. Now Scottie clears. This is Scottie Pippen versus Scottie Barnes at 23. Do you see the fucking numbers? It's insane, is it not? What is one thing that Scottie Pippen's better at? Field goal percentage, more steals, more blocks. Yeah, he's a more disruptive defender. Scottie Barnes is better at everything else, bro. He's a better free throw shooter, has a higher effective field goal percentage. He clears in the box spinus, you know. And by the way, to anyone saying VORP, it's a cumulative stat. Scottie Pippen played an entire season. Scottie Barnes is on pace to have a much higher VORP. Okay, pick another player. Actually, I'll give you a plucking player that's going to shock you. Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard, 4th year. Okay, this entire end of the episode is just becoming a fucking Scottie Barnes glaze fest. But I need y'all to have the facts, okay? And the facts are Scottie's a fucking great player. This is Scottie Barnes versus Kawhi Leonard. Points, Scottie. Rebounds, Scottie. Assists, Scottie. Per 100 possessions, right? Steals, Kawhi. Blocks, Kawhi. Kawhi is a great defender, right? 3-point percentage, Kawhi. 2-point percentage, Scottie Barnes. I don't think most people would have expected that, but it's true. Advanced, yep. Kawhi had a 5.9 box plus minus that year. That is the year after Kawhi won Finals MVP. That's who you have on your team here. Scottie Barnes has a higher usage rate. He has a higher offensive box plus minus. For anyone who thinks Scottie's not an offensive player, boom, there's your offensive box plus minus. To anyone who thinks Kawhi is this godly scorer, yeah, his role was such. But look at the usage rate. 27.7% versus 23% does not account for everything. That's not everything. Someone said year 3 Carmelo. That's totally not going to work out for Scottie. But okay, we try. Why are we saying year 3 Carmelo? Why are we saying year 3 Carmelo? Carmelo came out as a freshman. Why don't we just say year 4 Carmelo? We just say year 4 Carmelo. I think this is going to be Carmelo smokes, but no, never mind. Scottie smokes. Scottie's the more impactful player in year 4. Per 100 possessions, obviously Melo scores more, but Melo also takes more shots. Field goal percentage, almost dead even, 46% versus 47.6%. 3-point percentage is actually in Scottie's favor. 3-point attempts are in Scottie's favor. Free throw attempts are in Melo's favor. Free throw percentages in Melo's favor. Rebounds, assists, blocks, steals, everything's in Scottie's favor. You could make a very, very solid case that Scottie is having a much better year than Carmelo Anthony's year 4. In fact, it'd be hard to make a case that Melo was better in year 4. But of course, the eye test, right? I mean, everyone referencing eye test, y'all have broken fucking eyes. Year 4, season 4, Carmelo smokes is why. What do you mean smokes? Are you saying that year 4 was just really bad and so you want me to compare him to year 3? Okay, I'll compare him to year 3. If you're making the case that year 3 Carmelo was better, I don't remember that year, so let's check. Nope, Scottie's still better. Like, unless you don't care about defense, Scottie's better. In fact, Scottie has literally a higher offensive box plus minus than Melo too. So you can say, okay, well, there's certain things that favor Scottie. There's certain things that favor Melo. Even if it's close, Carmelo Anthony is regarded by many as one of the better players of all time. Scottie clears him in assists. He's tripling his assist rate. He's doubling his rebound rate per 100 possessions. He's a way better defender. And he's short 7 points per 100 possessions. But he's also doing that on 4 fewer field goal attempts and 5 fewer free throw attempts, which means it's not an equation of efficiency. Yeah, that's the wrong number to be focused on, my bro. Why don't you look at the fucking field goal attempts? You're telling me if Scottie took 4 more shots, 4 more fucking shots a game, and took 5 more free throws a game, you're telling me he couldn't bridge up 7-8 points? Of course he could. Even if he doesn't bridge it up all the way to 36.9, where would he get to? 36? Oh, now we're going to glaze him? because at that point he would be a 26 point per game scorer instead of a 22 point per game scorer or whatever. Yo, man, these numbers really do make people really stupid, because what he does with his possessions instead is these assists. That's also offensive generation. Okay. So far, every single player that y'all have asked me to compare him to at the same year, he's fucking clearing these guys. And every player you're asking me to compare him to is a top 75 player of all time. So please fucking reference the player that I'm supposed to compare him to without saying LeBron James, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, where I'm supposed to compare Scottie Barnes and be like, okay, what about Steph Curry? He's a top 10 player of all time. Can I compare Scottie Barnes in year 4 to Stephen Curry in year 4 and see what happens? I have a feeling y'all gonna be fucking shocked. I really do. Are you ready for this? It's not that far. Per 100 possessions, Scottie averages 30 points. Steph averaged 30.4. Scottie averages 10.8 assists. Steph Curry, the point guard, averaged 9.2. That's per 100 possessions in year 4. Don't come at me. Rebounds, 12.3 versus 5.3. Are y'all realizing who you have on your team here? Clutch Tatum saying Jaylen Brown. Bro, I'll do you one better. I'm not going to compare Scottie Barnes to Jaylen Brown in year 4. I'll compare Scottie Barnes to Jaylen Brown literally right now. And I'll tell you right now, he's a better player than Jaylen Brown right now. Year 9. Okay? Year 9. Year 4. Scottie clears. Scottie fucking clears. What are we doing here? So, what is he worse at? More steals, more blocks, more assists, more rebounds. He's shooting a better field goal percentage. He's shooting better 2-point field goal percentage. You want to hold the 3% gap from 3? That's the gap. He's taking almost as many threes. What's the gap? And I'm going to tell you right now, Scottie hasn't even played that well. Scottie has not played that well this year. He's playing okay. He's not playing his best. Y'all going to see, man. Y'all think I'm like fucking sitting here capping for like some like third team all NBA player. I'm telling you right now. Let me tell you something. And this is my final thing. I played out NBA 2K25, right? Granted, I adjusted some of the ratings to be more reflective of reality. But then I left them. I didn't tinker with them. I didn't try to spam anything. I just ran the simulation. 2 years from now, Scottie's a first team all NBA guy. The other guys in the all NBA team were Luka, Wemby, Jokic, and Embiid, or Jokic and Giannis. And it was Scottie. He beat out Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for all NBA. So, like, he was second runner-up in MVP in 2026 to Luka. Like, that's who we're talking about. That's how good he can be, right? I don't know, man. Y'all do you. But if you think it's close between Scottie and RJ, I don't think you understand basketball. Talk to y'all later. Peace, and hit like, subscribe. Good stuff.